Seen for generations. A dyad in the force.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of DYAD in the Forest with Look, Skooga Bornson. Thank you for the subscription.
Hello, Skooga.
This is episode 2.
Sparta.
19. What's his name? I didn't see it.
Leonidas? What?
So, today's episode, I mean, I think you guys saw the thumbnail and you guys saw the title. Disney has now produced the best Star Wars project.
Yeah, it's true. It's happened. You know, they overtook it.
And
we'll get into that.
Choco, what's up?
Oh, I got something in the mail today. So I haven't done it yet, but I need to make my first little, I guess, commercial for Choco Musk.
Oh, you did that? Okay, wait, you reached out to them, right?
Yeah, I requested a sample.
Oh, okay.
Just because it was called Choco Musk, and I was like, and it's a perfume called Choco Musk. And to my surprise, it actually smells pretty damn good.
Is it Choco scented? Like, what is that?
Yeah, no, it smells sweet. Like, it smells like a, I mean, like a candy bar. It smells with like a touch of like French vanilla, like that type of scent. I mean, my wife is pretty sensitive to scents, that especially ones that smell artificial, and she was actually like, "Oh, yeah, I like this."
So you smell like a C's candy store.
Yeah, pretty much.
Shout out to everybody in the chat: Phineas, McCormick, Lewis, Alvarado, X-Core Gamer, Skill, Craig McGuinn, I'm a Spooky Kitty, Marco 808, How's everybody doing? Just listening while studying for my final. Just some chill vibes. Right on, Lewis.
Yeah.
What's the final on, if I may ask? Considering Elon Musk's current connection to the U.S. government, I'm not so sure that Choco Musk is really worth flexing. That is true, but Musk does have multiple meanings, you know.
Dang it. I didn't even think about that. You just ruined it.
I mean, you could just say Fragrance by Choco, but that's not the brand, is it?
No, I just think of Anchorman of like a Mr. Scent, a Mr. Musk. Is that Anchorman?
Oh no. Sky in the chat. Welcome to DYAD and the Force. Found you guys on TikTok. Love the content and the positive perspective on Star Wars. As always, appreciate that sentiment. I really wish our fandom wasn't called a positive perspective on Star Wars. It's just being fans, really.
It's just enjoying stuff, yeah.
You know, I mean, we do have our dislikes in Star Wars, but being fans, we kind of just like, we don't dwell in that space. We criticize and move on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, talking about what we enjoy about things is just always a better conversation. Whenever people are saying like, how much they hated the sequels or they hated this or that, it's always the same exact conversation. They're regurgitating the same talking points that someone else said. Even things that I agree with. You know, people will always say the phrase, Finn got done dirty. They always say just like that. Like, it's always the same exact thing. And when you talk about things that people enjoy, it's always personal. It's always unique. It's always singular for that person in that moment. And that's what I love. Like, we may like the same thing, but they like it. This is why it touched me. This is what happened in my past. This is why I relate to it. It's so much better of a conversation than these
Whatever
other
goes
ones
on
that
over there.
and I feel bad because sometimes, I mean, I've been accused of being dismissive to people's points, and I feel bad, but I'm like, these aren't your points. These are literature devil's points from years ago, and they come up in the same order and in the same wording. Like, I'm not trying to be dismissive. I just know what you're going to say next.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly am trying to be dismissive when it comes to hearing the same thing 10 years out. You know, we've been saying,
it feels like when you're playing Street Fighter and they whiff, and then you're like, this is a punish combo. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
this into that, into that, into that. Cool. Now we reset.
For 10 years, like, the conversation has shifted slightly, but for 10 years we've been saying Kylo wasn't trying to kill Rey. And that alone, that sentence should be like, oh, well, I guess that's why she lived. but people like are like arguing some ridiculous stuff like, you know, now it's well, he was in pain, so it should make him more powerful. It doesn't matter how powerful he gets. He wasn't trying to kill her. That's the whole point. You know, we can mince words around the whole thing, but like, essentially, like Choco said, the takes remain the same, you know. And when we're talking about stuff we enjoy, there's profundity in, pun intended, in what resonates with everyone. You know, fans' complaints are.
For those who didn't get the pun, the profundity is the ship that Admiral Raddus flies in Rogue One.
You know, whenever we're talking about with what resonates with us, like Choco said, it's a better conversation than, well, Rey knows how to fix the Falcon better than Han and Chewie, which is a completely surface level and shallow take, but an incorrect take nonetheless. As I covered in my recent video, Choco and I aren't in the business of getting you to like things. We're just correcting misinformation, because we've gotten the comments before. I got a comment recently of someone who said, I just watched the sequels again, and I kept an open mind, and I kept your insights in mind, and they are a lot better than I thought. So one step at a time, one fan at a time. That's all it takes, because I know a lot of people watched them once in the theaters, watched the Chuds video, and said, well, that's how I'm going to think about them the whole time. Ryan on TikTok says, love your content, guys. Thank you so much.
Hello, Ryan.
Shout out to Darth Angel and Jabba La Forestier. Thank you for the heartbeat. Guys, get us to 5,000 likes like last time. Really, really appreciate you. We're going to say Choco.
And if you don't, I'm going to hit you with some Choco Musk.
That doesn't bode well for the brand.
Again, it actually smells great. I was like, you know what? I shouldn't say much until I don't want people to like go buy it and then not wait for my commercial. But I'm gonna take a hit right now. Oh yeah, you couldn't see the spray, but it's on me now. Anyways, Star Wars is now in Fortnite. It's a big thing that's happening right now. Pep, do you have any interest in Fortnite?
No.
I figured.
Never have.
Anyone in the chat have any interest in Fortnite?
I know there's Star Wars in it.
I re-downloaded it just for this. I was kind of bribed to do so.
Okay.
Cal bribed me with a Mace Windu skin. But you know what? I actually had fun this last time I was playing it, and it was a good time, And I'm not gonna lie, no, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. All right, I'll just say it. After we played Fortnite, I enjoyed it so much that I actually re-downloaded Apex.
Hey, let's go. Now Apex is my
and then
jam.
The next day you guys were playing Apex, and then I was like, nah. Next time.
What do you mean, nah?
Next time.
Next time, Gadget.
Yeah, it wasn't the cards for last night.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Hey, to each their own. I mean, Cal is in the very process of selling me on Star Citizen as well. I'm always open to try.
I mean, if you hopped into Star Citizen, I have it. I have a ship, and I started playing it. It's a game that I had followed. Star Citizen I followed for 20 years. It feels, huh?
I think it's been in development for 12.
No, it's longer than 12. I remember learning about it from a friend. I was living in Sacramento at the time, and we were having a Smash Brothers tournament, and that's the first time I heard it and went and looked it up, and I was like, that sounds sick. But that was like concept days, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Adam SK in the chat says, I'm a stormtrooper in Fortnite. I miss everything. I never could resonate with just kind of the gunplay in Fortnite. It is one of those games that I did try out. It's not one of those things where like I refuse to play it because of the zeitgeist of everything. Apex is more my speed, my jam.
I mean, it's a silly game.
Wanting me to get into it, yes. It's free. It's free until the 27th, so that's why I've agreed to at least try it out on the contractual terms of me just being a crew member of Cal's ship, and me not having to worry about the logistics of diving in and creating my own space existence.
It's very complicated. There's a lot of stuff, and yeah, no, we very much need guidance from the vets. So, but I'll join you guys on a mining trip.
Yeah.
Looks like we got a question. Are you guys not suffering from recency bias? The best of anything is subjective. So that is something that we will address once we get to that part. So
Yeah.
I am going to jot that down just to make sure that we address whether or not we feel like this is based in recency bias.
Suru Akani Oye. We will state our case in the court of public opinion. Also looking forward to when Zero Company comes out. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Definitely.
Let's see here. Sky says Andor got me wanting to play Battlefront again, but there's no one playing it anymore. Yeah. Sometimes I open up Rainbow Six Raven Shield and find out that game is dead too.
Pawan says, can't wait to have Choco on the podcast on Thursday. Yes, I will be going on the Pod Ones podcast, which is Thursday. You can find them on YouTube. Hop in the chat, and it'll be a gas.
Yeah. We're up to 3,000 likes already, guys. You guys are doing
I don't know why I
great
said it'll be a
job.
gas. So, we started watching WandaVision. It'll be a gas.
Lord Goop says, after finishing Andor and watching Rogue One again, I jumped into BF2 Supremacy on Scarif. Xbox servers were pretty full. Interesting. I mean, hey, Andor is summoning a lot of things out of people, and we'll talk about it when we get there. Certainly make our case for why it is the best. And of course, it's just like you said, Suru, it is subjective. Everything is subjective, right? And the title of this stream is in no way, shape, or form a proclamation across the board, but that's how we feel. That's, if you watch our reaction to the finale, it was, we were in lockstep with each other. Adam SK says, how do you guys feel about Vader's characterization at the end of Rogue One compared to A New Hope? I think I saw that video and I commented on that video and I said it was a gross misunderstanding of the character. It takes a couple of scenes from A New Hope where Vader is just kind of on the back line and just letting troopers do his work, and I think one of the things that the video said was he's content with being a supervisor, and the way he acts in Rogue One in the hallway is a portrayal of someone that's different. So Vader has changed over 20 years, and that's, well, I'll let Choco respond to that because I did.
Well, I mean, I didn't see the video, so I don't know all the parts. But you said Rogue One from A New Hope?
Yes, particularly the portrayal in the hallway scene. So let me pull up the video, and you'll only need the audio.
I mean, the biggest difference is for your entertainment. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the biggest difference is rule of cool. I feel like people would hate the hallway scene if Vader fought like he did in A New Hope. You know what I mean? I mean, in A New Hope, he couldn't raise his arms past his shoulders. He was quite limited.
Let me see here.
I don't
This
know.
moment is a fundamental misunderstanding of the Darth Vader character. Let me explain. I believe this moment is a fundamental misunderstanding of the Darth Vader character. Let me explain. Each of these scenes represent the only 3 times Darth Vader ignites his lightsaber in the original trilogy. What do they all have in common? In all cases, another lightsaber is present. Someone else makes the first move. I'd argue that he doesn't want to waste his time with the lightsaber if he doesn't have to. In fact, he often seems uninterested in taking point on anything, as evident by the fact that he's always sending others, often stormtroopers, to do his bidding for him. At this point in time, Darth Vader has already proven himself to be the most feared person in the galaxy, and it seems that he's more content supervising than doing the task himself, unless it involves another Jedi. Remember, his whole plan in Empire was about capturing Luke. He could care less about anything else. So why is he present here? Why go on a rampage just for some plans? This movie takes place a reported 10 minutes before the beginning of A New Hope. But the character we see here is not the same character that we'll be introduced to later. This is fan service, nothing more, and it honestly doesn't belong. When this movie came out in 2016, everyone loved this scene, but I believe this moment is a fundamental misunderstanding of the Darth Vader character. Let me explain. Each of these...
All right, respond.
Interesting. Well, A, yes, it's fan service, and B, I did always think it was weird that it was in Rogue One, because it felt like it was shot in a way that glorified Vader, in a way that is not how you would want it to be in a Rebel movie like that. I don't know, it did feel out of place to me, but that being said, no, it's not a misunderstanding of his character. I don't understand that part. Like, yeah, Vader sends his troops in first. Do you think he was the first person there? Did you? What does that mean? Like, they were fighting above there for a long time, and him going to why would he care about the plans? I doubt he would care about the plans himself. He would be told to care about the plans. Like, that's kind of Vader's whole thing. He has stuff that he's interested in, and he has stuff that he has to do for his job. So I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, I see it as a really cool thing, more than anything else.
Well, two things can be true at the same time, right? It is fan service for sure, but I don't think it's a misunderstanding of the character of Vader. Especially, well, see, this is what Andor. This is why the Andor is the best, because it recontextualizes everything. Going into Rogue One, we from Andor we see Partagaz, we see Legret, we see Dedra, we see the entire ISB fall flat on their face, trying to stop this kind of insurgency that's been under their nose for years, trying to capture Axis, trying to snuff out this rebellion, and they have failed. It ended with Partagaz taking his life, and this is the point in A New Hope where Vader finally shows up. Like, you could easily say, "Hey, Podwan is saying it in on the TikTok side, take matters into their own hands." This is the point in which, the Emperor and Vader finally have to step in, and just like Choco said in his response, he's not the first person in. Like, the rebels were holding things down. Another thing about that video saying just for some plans, you realize how long it's been in development and how important this project is. It's
like the culmination of everything that they've been putting all of this time and energy into. Of course he has a vested interest in. I mean, like, I actually don't believe Vader himself is interested in it, but I know he's told to take care of business when it comes to this. He does have orders and things he has to follow.
Yeah. I mean, we again from Andor we see how Krennic acts when the way he asks, "Who else knows?" And the amount of secrecy that has gone into this thing for it to slip through their intelligence network, for the rebels to have this information, thusly leading to them getting plans of the Death Star. Of course, they're going to try their best to get those plans out of their hands. So,
yeah, Vader's quite literally a last resort in this scenario.
Yep.
And also, it's also there's just something I hate when people do, and it's the only time Vader uses his lightsaber is to fight another Jedi, another person with a lightsaber. and you're like, what? That's because the story is following people with lightsabers. Like, it's a weird survivorship bias type of thing, you know?
Well, also,
it's like when you find your keys and you say it's in the last place you look, and it's like, because you're not going to keep looking, you know? Like, just because you've only seen it in this context does not mean it has only existed in that context, and there's no reason to believe that. You only see Vader a few times, and he's out doing stuff for the rest of whatever.
well, just in the context of the original movies, we only see Vader when there's a Jedi, because that's the only time we see Vader. Like, you know, when Obi-Wan's there, he acts. When Luke is there, he's there. But, you know, that, just like you said, those aren't the only situations that Vader is acting, you know? So it's like, of course, because the story of the originals is Luke and Vader. And so, and the return of the Jedi, essentially, the coup de grace of that whole story. And so, of course, we're only going to see him when it counts towards that narrative. Let's see. Star Wars Dino says Vader uses for defense too, though, against blasters. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Also, what is he gonna do if someone shows up with a lightsaber? Not use it? Like, of course, when someone shows up with a lightsaber, he's going to use a lightsaber. We can say it with Mace Windu and all of the Jedi. The Jedi only seem to use their lightsabers when against another person with a lightsaber. Yeah? Okay. But they also use it to deflect blasters too. But that you know, you guys get the point. Craig says, that guy said Vader going out of his way to get involved is a misunderstanding of his character. What Battle of Yavin did he watch? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Spooky Kitty says,
it's like if I got a job at a pizzeria and I was like, to one of my regulars, every time I see you, you're eating pizza. And I assume that's the only thing they ever eat. Like, that'd be stupid. I don't know.
Spooky Kitty says, this sounds like a George Carlin bit. Of course it's in the last place you looked. Why would you keep looking when you found it? Yeah, exactly.
I heard a sound at my door. I have to check that really quickly. Sorry.
Go get it. Cal Forrest says, ironically enough, he didn't even start with one against Riva. That's true. But in that case, we all know the narrative purpose of that. Dang, we're already 4,500 likes on TikTok. You guys are the best. Appreciate you. 1,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Darth Angel with the heart me. Thank you so much, Darth Angel. We are going to get deep into the mix with Andor. So stay tuned for that. We do have some things to talk about in our mixer segment, which basically is just what's happening in just fandoms across the internet. And we got a Superman trailer. Looks really good.
Why'd you say it like that?
I don't know, man. We got a Superman trailer.
I feel bad for the Snyder Bros out there. I don't know if you've been seeing them having to cope. It's just been really sad.
Like Snyder was the blueprint, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I know some cool Snyder Bros who are like, "Oh, this looks cool. I wish we got, more of what Snyder had done." And personally, I would love it if he finished his vision like in a graphic novel. That'd be sick. They should do that. That would be like printing money. But like, I keep seeing people who Zack Snyder's a blueprint do what they see, what Zack Snyder saw. Like, I keep seeing posts that are hating on this thing that hasn't come out yet, that they don't know anything about yet, just because it's not the thing they want, that they can't get.
Yeah. Not all Snyder Bros. We're up to 5,000 likes already on TikTok. You guys rock. Let's get to 10,000. I know you guys can do it. Your thumbs or index fingers might be tired, but drink some Gatorade Zero. Luke from Podwan says, if you need someone, let me know. Someone for what? We are opening calls to talk about the Andor finale. So when we get to that segment, feel free.
And we'll be there
call
soon.
in.
We'll be there soon. What did you think of the Superman trailer? And did you see your girl there? How'd you feel?
Did I? I'm not sure. I have a lot of girls. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I don't watch it the same with the same lens as I do with Star Wars.
Okay. Hot girl.
Who plays Hawk Girl?
Isabella Merced.
Well, I didn't know that one. Yes.
And now are you interested?
Yes. Now I
so-
want to see Hawk Girl.
Hawk girl, more like hot girl. am I
Listen,
right?
listen. When we get closer to the opening week, I'm gonna ask you, hey Choco, you want to go see Hawk Girl? And you'll say yes. I want to see Superman. That's how it's gonna go.
All right.
What are your favorite Star Wars video games? I grew up with Jedi Knight and KOTOR. Well, next week, you'll see my favorite character on my arm, and that'll tell you. So I'll let you come back for that one.
I gotta say, it's like Jedi Academy has been my top forever. But honestly, the Survivor series, Fallen Order and Survivor, I really, really enjoyed. Like they also gave me everything. Listen, I want to live as a Jedi, right? I want you to drop me into the world, and I get to be a Jedi. Not a game on rails. And so that's that's kind of my speed.
You know what? This might be a controversial take, but I think in recent memory, if I'm not gonna say KOTOR, if I'm not gonna say SOTOR, I'd say my favorite Star Wars game of recent memory is Outlaws.
Outlaws is a lot of fun too.
But you'll see. You'll still get my answer next week, Ryan.
I just had Outlaws just dropped their first thing at DLC. So the story continues, and I have not jumped in to continue it, but yeah.
But I also do place particularly Fallen Order high on the list as well. Did Choco just essentially unleash Element's kryptonite on this stream? My kryptonite exists in many, many different forms. One of which is Isabella Merced as well. The other, we just talked about Outlaws, Amberly Gonzalez. The other, Adria Arona. Another.
You really do have a Hispanic thing going on. Me too. It's all good. It's all good.
I mean, you're living it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't tell me you guys stopped at 5,000 likes. That's weak. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys so much. Shout out to Darth Angel for the confetti. Love the Survivor series. That looked like that looked like you were talking about WWE. I am yet to buy Outlaws. You should try it. If it's on sale, you should definitely try it. It's a good game.
I believe it is on sale right now. I think so. I'll have to check.
Yeah. Shadows of the Empire is my favorite, but there's a lot of nostalgia there.
Yeah. No, it's a good game. Actually, one game I have a ton of nostalgia, love/hate for is Super Star Wars. Like that's like the original Souls game, like the game that's so hard that you will punch something. And I'll never forget the Royal Guards. Like their force pike was like a hockey stick, and they slide across the floor. it was weird. It didn't make any sense, but yeah. Episode 1 Racer. Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Shout out to Dave the Berserker. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to the podcast.
I don't know if you saw, Pep. I actually I actually got a lot of traction on my latest video game pitch. I don't know if you saw it.
Did not.
All right. So here's my new pitch. We're talking like a dash of Hogwarts Legacy and Oblivion, mixed with maybe a little Mass Effect on top. But which I've actually never played the Harry Potter game, but it's what I think of. All right, so we're in the High Republic.
I have.
So yeah. So picture we're in the High Republic. You start out. You create your youngling. All right.
I'm sold.
You walk around your school, and you can talk to people. You can explore certain areas, whatever. There'll be like a time limit. You'll go to like 3 classes, and then you'll go rest, right? And when you rest, that ends 1 year, right? And then you get to the next year. Basically, the premise of the start of this game is everything counts. So who do you talk to? Who do you tell jokes with these people? Are you firm with them? Do you try to rizz up, the girl Padawan or whatever? What classes are you going to take? Are you going to take 3 different combat classes? Are you going to take languages? Are you going to take, survival, botany, whatever? And so, you go to sleep, you wake up, it's the next year. You do it again, but everything you got from before still counts. So you go, you talk to the Padawan. Maybe the girl you talk to now has a crush on you, or maybe she hates you because you told jokes and she hated your jokes, or whatever. And then you kind of keep going until you get to the point where a master selects you to be their Padawan. And once they do, your master goes off to an outpost in the High Republic. So your Jedi Master is going to depend on everything about you. They're going to pick someone that they, will jive with. So are you the person that doesn't talk to anyone? Are you a person that is really studious and loves books? Are you a person, Once you get to the outpost, it's like Oblivion, right? You have all of these skills that you've built up. You can build up other skills. They're going to take a lot longer, and you're going to be much better at these other ones. But I'd love a game where you live as a Jedi. You solve people's problems in this outpost. You take care, you fight off bandits, you fight off monster attacks, you help resolve issues. And what I want is for, if you took languages, when you see a sign, it might be an alien language or it might be in English. If you took it and you understand it, it's in English. And if you didn't take it, it's something you can't read it. And so that it might help, it might hurt. Maybe an alien says something, you don't know what they said, and that could have helped you. And you just live in this world. And then at some point the Nile attack, and then you end up having to go to the other outposts and recruit the other kids that were part of your group, because they're all in the other outposts that you would have gone to, but they're partially destroyed or getting destroyed. Anyways, yeah, you go through, you recruit them. Your relationship with them is going to be based off of everything you had in the past. Some of them might fall to the dark side, whatever. And then you get your group together and you do a final attack to take down the Nile. That's
you had me in the first 5 minutes because we pitched this 2 years ago. The premise, which was
the premise, but
the original premise that we pitched 2 years ago was we need a game that we live as the Jedi. We go through an accelerated experience of the temple, being a youngling and training and taking classes, and then there's a catalyst that pushes the story forward where you are a Padawan and with your master and you're doing missions and trying to solve a mystery. And there's a lot of especially after these 2 years, there's a lot of things that I've learned from Legacy that definitely informs a game like this. In particular, you have freedom. You have the freedom to select your classes, and the classes that you, particularly in Legacy, when you take a class on Transfiguration, you learn a bunch of skills that teaches you how to transform things. And then you go to like a defense class and you learn a whole bunch of attack spells. So in Jedi, in this game, you would take different classes at your own leisure to unlock certain skills. You take a telekinesis or a force class, or you take a diplomacy class, and you can translate alien languages, like you said, or you take a healing class or something like that, and your skill set and your tool kit is determined by the curriculum that you chose through this first phase of the game. And then the second phase of the game, I like it a lot, is Oblivion. You take that toolkit and you refine it under the tutelage of the master that matches.
And then I just think it'd be so cool if you are selected mostly based off of your personality, and so like whatever outpost you go to, maybe you go to one that's all humans, but you spent all your time learning languages. That was a waste. Sorry, that's just how life is, or vice versa. I just think it would be really interesting and would have a ton of replay value, so you can play it differently.
Yeah, and also like we can put in elements of Skyrim in there too, where your house thane is the reverse. It's your master. They follow you around, and then they advise you and stuff, and they help you out, but they're your companion essentially.
Until they die in a Nile attack.
Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. Like there's a lot of room for RPG elements in there, like Mass Effect and Oblivion.
Yeah. I just want more games where you can just live in the world. And I realized that that's why I actually didn't like Skyrim very much my first playthrough, is because I didn't understand the game type that it was. And it was only after I went back after playing Oblivion that I really understood how I was supposed to play the game, and it was a lot better that way. But yeah,
I mean, hey, it's a great game. I'd love to help develop it. Lucasfilm Games.
So yeah, if you're watching, hit us up. The other thing we had drop is a trailer for Ironheart.
That looks great.
I'm excited for Ironheart for sure.
Which leads me to my response to the Chuds. So, it's mask off season. It's been mask off season for quite some time now. I watched a clip because fortunately I don't watch Geeks and Gamers, but I saw a clip of Geeks and Gamers watch the first 10 seconds of the trailer and said, "This is a disaster. Identity politics all over again." And I said, it's just black people existing. What is identity politics in this? There's nothing. It's about Riri and her journey, with getting an internship and stuff, or she had an internship. Her journey with becoming who she is and building something iconic. There's no political commentary at all in this trailer. We have zero context as to the larger story and narrative. There's no idpol whatsoever. And so the bottom line is, you saw a bunch of black people and you were like, this is identity politics.
And they got mad, It's hilarious. I mean, because again, in the Star Wars community, I've had the same conversation 1,000 times. They're like, if only they would just focus on telling a good story and not focus on identity. And I'm like, what project focused on identity? Which one? And I'm like, well, I guess they didn't focus on it in it, but it's like the people there are focused on that, and you can tell. I said, like what? What are you referring to? Well, like the whole force is female. I'm like, nope, that was a Nike shoe campaign, had nothing to do with Star Wars. Well, I mean, like, there's interviews with Kathleen Kennedy. I'm like, what interviews are you talking about? What did she say? I mean, it's just stuff. You should know, and you're like, you have nothing. You have nothing. This is all in your head. You are jumping at shadows. Y'all need to calm down.
Which goes with what we've been saying about these chuds for years now, and it has nothing to do with the show. If we take it back to the Acolyte discourse, no, the discourse surrounding the announcement of New Jedi Order and Charmin obeyed Chinoy. The interviewer asked her, how does it feel to be the first woman to direct a movie? And she answered, but everyone said, oh, now she's going to make it all about women empowerment and feminism. I'm like, no, the interviewer just asked her the question specifically. It's like if somebody's interviewing me, he's like, how does it feel to be Filipino? It's like, I really like it. Sometimes I visit home every couple of years. And then someone's like, why are you like focusing on being Filipino? I was like, I'm not. They asked the question. It
is what it is. But one thing I am interested in this show is, I mean, she's going up against the Hood, who is like not a big villain. He pops up every now and then, sometimes fighting, against Riri. Sometimes it's the Young Avengers. Sometimes it's he was in some Agent Venom stuff. But it'll be interesting. Doctor Doom got mad at him and just teleported him to the middle of a desert once. That was kind of funny.
I had a Freudian thought when you said this. It's Riri's going up against the Hood. I'm like, dang. Did she grow up in what Hood? What Hood is the villain?
Oh, but it'll be interesting to see. The Hood is mostly mysticism and magic based. So I'm curious how that's going to drive together, because obviously she's going to approach everything from a technological angle.
Denzel Green knows what I'm talking about. Did you have to face the Hood growing up, Choco?
I did have to face. I had to face the Hood. Nope, not going to say that.
Well, now everybody's going to want to know.
It's a circumcision joke.
Calfor says, if only you focused on the story and not the identity, you could actually enjoy the story, quote unquote. Which is something that they always say, right? It's like, we don't care about the character, we don't care about the cast. We just want a good story. Yeah. It's like, so why are you pointing out the cast when you're watching the trailer? Instead of watching a trailer and you're like, oh, who's that? What are they gonna go up against? I wonder what happens in this movie. It's like, black guy, gay person. You guys are pointing out the cast. You guys are focusing on that stuff instead of the story.
The funny thing though is there are movies that come out that aren't great. People didn't like the prequels. No one's like, too many. It's too white. That's why it's bad. You know what I mean? Things can even if it ends up not being good, things can be good, or things can be bad, and have brown people in it. And the fact that they're brown is not why it's bad. I don't know if anyone catches that. I feel like we'll see Kate Bishop in this. Maybe, but she's pretty big time these days. That's a budget killer,
Well, I mean,
we'll see what the contracts
might, right?
are.
The end of Hawkeye saw Kamala, right, being like, I want to form a team, just like so we'll see.
I would love to see Kamala pop up in this. That would make me very, very happy. I love her. We did find out why there was no Hawkeye sequel.
Yeah. They did him dirty, them.
They did. But yeah, he was just like, they offered me half the money, so I said no.
Well, okay. Let's game this out. Why do you think that was? Do you think a second Hawkeye was going to be more focused on Kate Bishop and it would have been more of a background character, do you think?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I know that financial decisions can seem black and white, and I'm not defending Disney in any way, but like they might have been like, he's probably not going to be in the show a lot, so let's offer him half the money. Let's see. And they don't understand that people's middle school edge lord phases would actually be too lame for Sith lords to tolerate. Listen, a lot of people don't understand the Sith.
I mean, honestly, I think that's more profound than you think. I do feel like a lot of these judges that we see online were the people that we knew in middle school and high school who would say the worst jokes and they thought it was super funny and they're obsessed with weird stuff. And then you kind of chuckle at them because they're there and you're going to see them tomorrow. But they're weird and you don't actually like them. And then after you graduate, you never talk to them again because no one was actually that person's friend. And then that is who they grow up to be. That's who Elon Musk is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Connor says, can we talk Superman trailer? There's not really much to talk about. I think there's, they showed a lot more footage of the action that's going to happen as Superman is contending with being, saving people.
Which was a cool thing. I mean, it's kind of, we get our feelings of like Sokovian Accords, but this is a Superman that was genuinely unhappy. He was frustrated because he just wants to save people and he doesn't think it should be political. He just wants to save people. But yeah, and like the way his body language changed when he went from Clark to Superman, I thought that was really cool. I love seeing Mr. Terrific, in the background. He's a great character. I hated seeing Guy Gardner because I just hate that character, but Nathan Fillion is always a joy. And yeah, we got to see a Green Lantern construct. It was just a hand, but it is what it is. But I like that we're dropping into an already functioning universe, so we don't have to spend forever building everything up.
Yeah.
Hopefully they do focus on Superman, though. That's the one thing.
Also, if you haven't seen Sinners yet, go see it. Like, put your money where your mouth is. If at any point in the last couple of years you thought that Hollywood was nothing but remakes and adaptations and not an original thought, go see Sinners. It's a new IP. It's an original IP. So definitely show it some support.
And Brian Coogler is the EP on Ironheart, so that gets me excited as well.
Let's see. We're at 7,000 likes on TikTok side. Appreciate you guys so much.
All right. I think we can jump into... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing. Let's go on to our main segment, which is Andor being the best of Star Wars.
Around. Nothing's gonna never keep me down.
Now, I do think some people wanted to call in for this, so I'll reach out to them. But Choco, why don't you give us a start with just why?
because it good. Now, I mean, I want to start with answering the question that we got earlier. Are we saying that it's the best just because of recency bias? And I mean, there may be a boost in there, but here's something that I always do. That I don't know. I don't think everyone does this, but I could be wrong. Whenever I think something or believe something or feel something, I always examine why before I make any decisions based off of it. Why do I think this? Why do I feel this way? You know what I mean? If I'm like leaning towards something already, then I will research the opposite of it to disprove where I'm already leaning. And then I often will. And then I will research to prove it. That way I'm like, balancing it out, and I have all the information. And when people ask me, or what about this, I've already considered it. So that's kind of how I function. And so I examine, do I think this could be based off of recency bias? And I have to say, no, I don't believe so. I mean, whenever I talk about my favorite TV shows, my favorite everything, like when I say my favorite Star Wars projects are The Last Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, and Andor, you can get a feel for a slower, more deliberate, character-driven storytelling method. That's just my preference, and that hasn't changed. And that's through some of my favorite movies, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, The Prestige, all of those types of films are my jam. That's what Andor is, and that's what it does. So I already know that's golden. As far as characters, plot, development, cinematography, writing, I can't find any holes with it. And I don't think, I mean, there's things that maybe I would have preferred if this happened, but I can't find any holes. And I don't think time is going to change that. So yeah, I don't believe it's recency bias.
Agreed. I think most of my recency bias fell off after we got done talking about it in our reaction. Just the like all up in our feelings about it. But critically, this show is almost flawless. There's some like shoddy CG here and there that I talked to Choco about, but that doesn't take away from the actual story and the show itself. The writing is tight. The dialogue is tight. Like you said, the cinematography was absolutely brilliant. Every single shot, I didn't have any issues with any shots. And
but even the shot choices were unique and special and told a story in and of themselves, and that's how you know they were cooking.
Yeah. And you would think that coming out of a series that dropped 3 at a time at an accelerated pace with a year gap in between each, there would be pacing issues. I didn't have any pacing issues. And maybe that has to do with them dropping them in arcs and not week to week. We'll never know because they dropped them 3 at a time. That's how I consumed them. I know some people stretch them out over the week, but essentially the episodes were available to watch. So you could watch them at your own pace, which means externally and extrinsically you wouldn't have pacing issues because you're going at your own pace. And then internally with the show critically, it was paced really well, where even if you watched one episode, there might be a cliffhanger here where, I can't wait to continue that tomorrow. Each episode was tight. Like, the subplots played out beautifully amongst the larger main plot. And like Choco said, I can't find any holes in this show. I really can't. And then if I mention something like them retconning K2 and Andor's meeting, It is what it is. That's an
It
acceptable
was
change.
better. It was better, you know. Yeah. There was someone in the chat asked the question, will Dedra work for Thrawn? That is a thought I had, because I could see a world where Thrawn comes back and he's finding people for his thing, and as he's going through the records, he finds someone that figured some stuff out, and he pulls her out because he wouldn't care that she was in prison. She'd be like, you know, what he would say that was wasteful what they did. Will he do it? I probably not, but it's something I could see him doing.
I do like the implication of Dedra being on Narkina 5, though.
Yeah.
Because that means she survives in canon until we have a canon death for her. You know? She's not on the Death Star.
You know?
She's not in any battles that we know of, unless they sacked Narkina 5. But then, would the the rebels?
Although I would put money that Narkina 5 would be one of the planets that Palpatine hits in his contingency plan.
That's true. But that's not to say Dedra couldn't have escaped between then and Cinder. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Nothing But Media says, I think Dedra's arc should be that she rots, hoisted on her own petard, a victim of her own wish to victimize. You're a cruel person, and I like it. I mean, she's not redeemable. That's just what it is. You know, this was her from the very beginning.
I also did see a comment in chat earlier that was like, "Hey, did you know that Denise Gough was the voice of Yennefer in Witcher?" In which I found that out a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, "Well, that's why I love her so much." Because that voice came out, and I was like, okay.
Makes you giggle.
Yeah. But this show is just so okay. Here's my true bias coming out. Ahsoka is still my favorite show. Right? It doesn't mean it's the best show critically, but it's still my favorite show because of my lore brain. And that's how I rank Star Wars personally, right? But Andor critically is the tightest and most flawless project we've ever gotten that I can even if Ahsoka is my favorite show personally because of my mysticism brain, I can still poke holes in Ahsoka. I can't see it in Andor, you know. And one of my favorite my two favorite things from Andor, and we'll get to our callers. If you guys want to call in to be a part of the discussion, you can go to dyadintheforce.com/call, CALL. We'll get you in to speak your piece about the show. And we are being joined by our senior correspondent to the stars, Cal Forer. So we'll get his take on it. But my two highlights of the show, or three is more of a nebulous thought, but my third favorite thing about this show is the recontextualization of it takes a village. And it's always been implied throughout Star Wars that the rebellion is more than Han and Luke, right? It's always been implied, and Leia. But seeing how many characters that were a part of the creation, the establishment, and the progress of the rebellion that I didn't know of before, and I fell in love with: Clea, Vel, Cinta, Nemec, Gore, everybody that was involved. Mon Mothma, Bail, everybody. It recontextualized how much their sacrifice means to the establishment and the building of this movement. And it goes on to my second favorite thing about this show, is realizing that Andor, as well as everybody else that's involved in this movement, is a messenger, an agent of the Force. They are moving along with the will of the Force. They're carrying and collecting as they go. They are part of this bigger will. And there's places that they belong, that they need to be. And that revelation from the Force Healer like solidified everything that we've thought about with the Force, the will of the Force, and people who act in accordance with it and bring about change and are affecting change, no matter how small. And then my number one favorite thing, is that it ended on legitimate hope, with Bix and Andor's son, and a look off into the horizon that is the Andor Cinematic Universe's very own binary sunset.
I mean, the implication of B2 EMO being able to play with Andor's son just truly touches my heart. Truly.
Yeah. Ryan says, why was Bale recast? They go into
scheduling conflict.
Yeah, Tony Gilroy does talk about that in the Variety interview. Gives us a lot more detailed, reasoning for that. But let's bring in our senior correspondent to the Stars, Cal 4, to get his take on the Andor series. And after you're done giving us your overall thoughts, give us your 3 favorite moments of the entire series.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's something special, right? And I don't think it's a revelation to anybody who's actually sat down and watched it. It's an era of Star Wars that has felt so pertinent to like real life in one way, but also it's the most human side of Star Wars, which is not a story about the Jedi or the Skywalker saga and stuff like that. It's about real people, real problems, and how they cope and handle with it all. I'm a big sucker to like sound design and just like visuals and stuff like that, and it's aced across the board there as well. Like the music that they brought to it, the score for everything, how especially like with season 1, how it all kind of built to a crescendo, and it kind of does for season 2 as well. And it's just, yeah, it's peak for me anyways.
Yeah. And your 3 standout moments?
Man, for all of Andor or specifically season 2?
Season 2.
I've disappeared. Oh, there I am. So for season 2, I think K2 was a big one for me. I'm a big droid fan in general. Plus, Alan Tudyk as any character in anything, I'm always a big fan of. So to see him as a droid is always just a vibe. But the way that they brought K2 to life with this was really cool to me. I was really worried that we weren't going to have enough time. With the way that they kind of talked to one another in Rogue One, I was really worried that there just wouldn't be enough way to build up chemistry. And I think the scene with them all playing like space dominoes was delightful, because it really showcased their relationship as more than just, hey, you're my droid, do things that I need you to do, right? Gave them time together. I think one of the things that kind of broke me was Bix at the end was huge. Just getting to see her okay was huge. And then also that, like, it's not the end of everything, because I was really stressed going into this show, knowing obviously with what happens in Rogue One, worrying about, okay, is this just going to be a downer of a show by the end of it, where it's like, oh. But that montage at the end just got to show us, like, exactly what Cassian says to Mon Mothma, like, make it worth it, right? Like, if it all just ended with, like, yeah, everybody's either dead or they're gonna die in Rogue One, like, man, that'd be a bummer. But to get to kind of go off of that hope of the future and, like, realize, like, this is what everybody's fighting for. It's the to pull in my inner weeb, it's their will of the fire, right? Like, it's all about that next generation and making sure that the galaxy is a place for the future, not just for us now. That was a huge moment for me to get to see, like, yeah, okay, she left because there was a kid, and it's about them. Yeah, those were two big ones. I think the last one is going to be Clea's whole thing with infiltrating the hospital and her flashbacks and stuff like that was
So
pure
badass.
poetry. Yeah, like, she's a badass. Her story was tragic. It just made me feel all of the feels at once, to where at the end of the episode, especially when it's just silence in that hospital, like, I just, ugh.
With the longest fade out ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Shout out
why?
to Elizabeth. Shout out to Elizabeth DeLaw. I just sent the picture to Cal. Don't choke. Huge fan of hers now. I also.
Thirst.
So let's see here. I did get a comment, where I saw a comment on someone else's positive review of Andor, and they said, "It's too bad we're never gonna get this quality of a show again." And I was like, how pessimistic do you have to be to think that just because we got a great show, everything else is just gonna suck afterwards?
It's like, whoever you are, I don't want to be your friend. It's like,
Yeah.
like you go out to eat and you're like, this is really good. Yeah, we're never gonna have food this good again. And you're like,
Jesus.
Why?
Yeah, no, I, that's literally the analogy I was coming up with in my head. I'm like, who goes to eat a meal and they're like, man, that was the best food I've ever had. I guess I'll just die because there's no point in eating anymore. It's like, no, what? No. There's
That being
different
said-
flavors of Star Wars. It's one big meal, and we get to have different courses of it, and Andor is just one of them, and we get to enjoy it, and you can rewatch it, and it makes the rest of the meal of Star Wars feel that much more complete, but, like, it is its own thing.
I was gonna
Ugh.
say, that being said, though, I would fully understand if Andor, after losing Bix, was like, listen, I was at the top. I'm out of the game now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd understand that.
Spooky Kitty says, I think Disney has taken note of pretty much universally positive reaction. The fact that both sides are making fun of theory is kind of beautiful. Well, that's neither here nor there. I do think that they take the right lessons from this show, which is basically let them cook. Give them the canvas with which the story and the plot demands. You know, as I said in our reaction, if they pitch you this show, don't give them this canvas. If they pitch this show, give them this canvas, right? It's like we've been saying since 2019 when we first started. It's like the story should not be 3 seasons. The story should be however long it needs to be. If the story can be told properly in 1 season, let it be 1 season. But if we're dealing with this much heft, you got to give them the canvas so that they can cook. And so I
will
hope with
say,
at least,
sorry, I will say that, you know, originally at Star Wars Celebration, they mentioned that originally this was going to be a season for each year, and it being shortened. So I think there was a benefit for it being shortened. I'm sure there was stuff that had to be cut out, like Cinta's accident, or certain things. But again, like you said, this was exactly what it needed to be.
Yep.
I think if it were any longer, it would feel less like Andor's show and more about just like the rise of the rebellion, which would have been a good show too, but it wouldn't have been Andor.
Yep. Essentially. We just want, listen, there's a chance that Ahsoka season 2 will be the best as well. Have they
So
announced
that's
an
who I
episode?
want. That's who I
season
want to
length?
take note specifically. No, they haven't announced any season length on Ahsoka season 2. But listen, Andor brought in characters when they needed to because the story needed it. And it was because the story asked. It wasn't, well, who makes sense to put in here? It was, does the story need them to be in here? There was an interview where, Twinniger was asked, well, how come Tarkin wasn't in it? Where was Palpatine? And he's like, if we needed them, we'd put them in, but we didn't need them. I was like, that's and someone like Tarkin, you would think, oh, they'll put it in. And I'm glad, because that CG monstrosity, I hate it. I need it to go. I need it to hop back on the Polar Express where it came from and never come back.
And go
I'm gonna
into
be
the valley
honest.
with which it's uncanny.
I'm gonna be so honest. When I first watched Rogue One in theaters, there was a little uncanniness, but I was like, I don't know, they might have just done like some weird retouching or something like that, and I just couldn't put my finger on it at the time, because like that's not where my focus was. And it wasn't until after the movie I was talking to friends like, yeah, and that whole I'm like, he was CG, and they're like, that actor's dead, right? I'm like, oh, whoops. I had no idea. I was just like, yeah. I thought he was just like super, super old, and they did some like weird retouching on him that didn't come out quite right, and I was like, whatever. And just kind of like kept going with the movie.
I mean, you did have a point there. CG Tarkin looked a lot better than Superman's mustache.
Very true.
I don't know if you remember that. I remember
It
watching
was
that in the theater, and I was
abysmal.
like, what's wrong with him? I didn't know that they retouched it. I was just watching this without any prep, just going,
Why can't he move his upper lip?
what happened to his face? Why is he a monster?
Yeah.
Which is another lesson that I want them to take away from Andor, is recasting, because I think Benjamin Bratt did an incredible job.
Yeah.
And aside from scheduling conflicts, and all of that stuff that happens with production, if the character's too old, recast them.
I'm gonna be honest again. I didn't notice it first.
I mean,
Because I was just so immersed in the storm, like, there's Bail Organa, yay. Wait a minute. Like, it took me a second, I was like, oh, that's why, it's a completely different actor. I don't know, when I'm in it, man, I'm in it. Like, I'm immersed, and
No,
it's...
that's fair.
That's not a bad thing. It's also a good time to bring in our other caller, who's been waiting in the wings. Kenny
Hello
Carrot.
there.
Hi, Kenny Carrot.
What's going on, everybody?
What's up?
Yo.
Oh my God,
Good.
I'm still blown away by this show, man. Like, I don't know how else to put it. This show just blew every expectation in my book, hands down.
All right, elaborate.
Okay, so a lot of people who have been long followers of mine know that I have a huge disdain, did have a huge disdain to Cassian Andor in Rogue One. I could not stand the character. He fell into a stereotype that I absolutely despise, and that is the loyal soldier. They show no remorse. They are fully dedicated. They have no problems doing the job at hand. They are always the problem. Anakin falls into this trope. A lot of characters within Star Wars follow this trope. But most of the time, we have context with these characters. We had none for Cassian. When the show got announced, I was going to hate watch this show. Plain and simple, it was only going to be for the story and maybe some character development with other characters. That was about the extent of it. The first 3 episodes shut me down. Shut me up, told me I'm an idiot, and I was done.
Took my lunch money.
I was pretty much.
Okay.
It's pretty much how we felt. I mean, I think for the most part, and I hate speaking for the entire fandom, but I could probably guess that there was a cool majority of people who were like, Andor. I don't think that's a show we asked for, but as soon as we started watching, we were like, all right, never mind. This is awesome. Give us more.
After that, every episode was just building to something. I couldn't tell what, but character of Andor was developing in front of me. I was literally watching this character grow, and I'm like, okay, here's context. Where is this cold-blooded killer that I remember in Andor, like in Rogue One? Where is this guy? Because this is not the same character. This is a completely different individual. Season 2 came in, and that's when I started noticing those small transitions that I'm willing to fight, but at this cost. By the time we get to the Gorman incident, the Gorman massacre, that's when that loyal soldier syndrome started kicking in. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this, but here's what's going to happen. There's no middle ground in here. And by the time we get to that final arc, that's when Andor was like, no, this has to happen. I'm down for the cause, but this has to happen.
I think a big part of that's urgency, right? Like, the difference between season 1 and season 2 is it's getting more dire. The fire is growing even larger, right? To where we don't have the time to find out the right answer. We got the info we needed, and we need to make sure that we're safe. And unfortunately, this person needs to die to ensure that.
Yeah,
that killed me too. Seeing Luthen go, I was like, no. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it had to happen, but God damn it, why in this way?
See, I didn't realize it until he said Yavin. As soon as he was like, where are we going? He's like, Yavin. I was like, oh.
And it goes with a lot of people who are asking me. The Andor we see in Rogue One seems a far stretch from the Andor we're seeing in the show, and I told them that's because he regresses, and there's a regression that happens in this particular last arc, where he gets the call from Kleia, thinks it's Luthen, and is faced down by the council saying this could be a trap, something like that, whatever, and then he delivers a poignant not even monologue, but the way he delivers his lines here, he's like, Luthen is responsible for all of this, and he's given so much more than all of you, and he's buying into it, and so when we get into Rogue One, that's when we get the person that kills Tivik and who is almost willing to kill Galen, and then we get the progression when with Jyn. And that's what happens with storytelling.
I mean, I'd like to point out that all men regress when there's no woman in the house.
Yes, fact.
Just saying, as soon as Bix leaves and it turns into a frat
I'm
house,
in an
and they're
infinite
drinking too
regress.
much and they're playing cards, and, my wife goes out of town for 3 days. I regress.
To be fair, he still waters his plants.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Kenny?
Yes.
You know.
Every time my wife goes to work, I'm like, you know what I can do today?
Pod
Tell
Ones in
an
the
hour
chat says.
before, and it clean everything up.
Pod Ones in the chat
Facts.
says, Cal, not going to lie, but the hair is just majestic tonight, buddy.
I appreciate
Harry-
that. It
is very maney right now.
Yep.
Harry says, I knew Luthen was dead for the whole season, but the dread set in when the entire recap was just Dedra and Luthen basically talking about each other. Yeah.
Mhm.
That was another poignant scene that had a lot more impact than it was actually delivered, which was when she took out the N9 Starpath unit. I was like, dang.
I knew that's what she had to the whole time, and I was like, she's gonna pull it out, and he's gonna like. At that point, why even keep the charade going? But I think my thing was
She's rehearsed it. I've rehearsed this so many times.
I think with Luthen, what really broke my heart in a way was how real his passing was. Like, as somebody who's had to be in like a hospital and stuff like that when people have passed away, like,
Yeah.
there's also something that's just kind of sad that like when he says he burns his life for a sunrise he'll never see. You hope that he's going to go out in like this glorious battle. Nope, just cold and alone in a hospital. And it's like, oh my god, it's just.
This is one of those things that like a story thing that I would have wanted to see, but I'm not at all disappointed it didn't happen. But like, it would have been so poignant if like his last moments was setting off a bomb. Like, and I hate how this sounds, but hear me out. If his last moments was setting off a bomb on Coruscant, like at like a military base, but it was like a brilliant explosion that he's dying as he sees this synthetic sunrise on the horizon, because this is the final target before he rests. I thought that would have been cool, but the scene that we got did so much for Clea's character.
Oh my God, Clea, man, Jesus! I was reading not too long ago because I saw a TikTok saying like this was the actress's first actual role in anything. I didn't believe it at first, so I went to go look. Yeah, this was legitimately her first honest to God role in a major motion product. Holy crap!
You know what that says to me? That says to me we can reach out to a publicist
Oscars,
for an
baby,
interview.
Oscars. Just give that woman the gold all day.
We're gonna interview Elizabeth DeLong. We're gonna reach out.
Do it.
Nemo says Emmy. I mean, give her an Oscar anyway. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care at this point.
Why not?
I think she
What is that? What is that? The EGOT or whatever it's called?
Give her an Emmy, an Oscar, a Tony,
Yeah.
and a Grammy.
The Stanley Cup.
Who was that guy from Book of Boba Fett that did the unnecessary spin? I'm gonna say
Oh crap!
Clea spins and walks away like she owns the goddamn planet. I mean, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyways, we have another caller waiting in the wings. Let's bring them in. Hello to NBM, nothing but media. Sorry.
Hello
I
there.
said that.
You probably don't remember, but I was on the your appearance on the Shillcast with you. I joined in.
No, yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah,
end of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
You look different though. Are you doing a man bun thing?
No, my hair is short, so I might have had longer hair then. But
I see an impressive collection of pops back there. I gotta ask, what's the best one or your favorite one?
it's difficult because they are mine and my partner's. She's even more of a collector of them than me. So on this wall, we've got the sort of I guess, more respectable ones like Godfather, Queen, things like that.
Okay.
And she's got in our spare bedroom, she's got all of her Star Wars pops, which is a huge amount. But my favourite is probably my Alfred Hitchcock or my I think I'm trying to remember which. It's either that or the Vincent Price. That's my sort of.
Nice. All right. All right.
Damn.
We've got too many.
Really quickly, David Dobre in the chat says that title is wrong. Sorry, it was a good show, just not the best. Well, that's your opinion, but this is our show, so the title's correct for us.
Oh.
No, that's fine. I mean, we're like I said, we're not in the business of getting people to agree with us.
I do have something to say though. Listen, if you don't like Andor, if you don't like this show,
No, they said it was a good show.
that's okay. Just in general. I've been seeing a bunch of people who are like being really dicks to people who don't like Andor, like they're
Oh yeah.
like Neanderthals because they didn't enjoy it. And while that may be true, it's not true in all of the time. No, I just mean it's not helping nobody, you know.
Yeah.
If you like it, you like it. You don't like it, you don't like it. It's okay.
Not everybody likes your favorite food.
I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I've seen a rise of sort of the cinema snob, like people sort of in their 20s who are just discovering not all blockbusters, not all films are blockbusters, and there's a weird sort of sentiment that is, for me, as bad as like what the Chuds do. They're just finding different ways to be hateful about media, and
yeah, it's a weird like mix of entitlement and elitism for no reason. When it's like, just we're all here to enjoy a thing. That's it.
It's the CinemaSin generation, and this isn't me lobbying it fully on Jeremy, but like he's effectively raised an entire generation that hates 20 seconds of logos. And that's completely superfluous. It has nothing to do with the critical nature of any show or story, right? And so,
which is weird because independent films tend to have so many logos before them because they've had to go through hundreds of different companies to pay the bills.
Yeah. No, I mean it has led to a generation that wants 10 out of 10 or it's a 1. It's the land of extremes, and we can't appreciate something that is just good. Like I remember growing up, and we've talked about this before, growing up and getting my GamePro magazine, looking at the games that are coming out, seeing the reviews, and they're like, "Oh, this latest Final Fantasy is a 6." I'm like, "Oh, okay, so I'll check it out." Now a 6.
Honest to God question.
Sure.
No, finish your thought real quick. Steph, sorry.
Welcome, David. Welcome to the group.
Thanks for the subscription. No, my basic thought was like 6 was good. It was okay. Like now, a 6 is the worst movie or the worst game ever made. And I still fall back on the same unoriginal thought, which is if that's the worst thing ever made, then Dragon Ball Evolution doesn't exist. But I digress.
Don't get me started on that film.
We got our money back. That's not a joke. We got our money back.
You're not gonna have a landscape of just all 10s across the board. You're not gonna have a landscape of all 1s.
Oh my God!
It's just
a scale for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scale because everybody has different sensibilities.
Off that jumping point, real quick. Everybody right now in the panel, the lowest number you could go for Andor.
9.9. That's the highest too, because on principle I don't give things 10s.
So you and Brandon both have that same belief, and I agree. Nothing in the world is perfect, but 10 doesn't mean perfect. That's what I stand on.
I'm with you on this.
All right,
one,
so
yeah.
contextualize this for me. Give me your criteria for 10.
A 10 needs to be something that after I'm done watching it, I'm typically stunned. I genuinely cannot stop and sit and think about what I could possibly do to have changed it, to have made it better, I just go, wow. Wow, wow, wow. That was like one of the best things I've ever seen. That's why for me, as low as I could give Andor is a 10.
Within that context, I would give it a 10.
That's how I rate it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's why we have a rating system, right? Is it's what does it mean to you? What is your ranking system? And I think that's something that a lot of people forget about. Is like we need to define what our 0 to 10 is. Because like for me, I can still enjoy a 5. It's not my favorite thing ever, but I'm not going to be upset about it. And it was whatever.
I mean, you got two
I've
5s and you got a 10.
Yeah, exactly. There's
we
worse
talking
ways
about
to
again?
spend an hour.
If the rumors tell us
But-
anything, even a 1 can be enjoyable. In the right
Exactly.
vein.
Sometimes, yeah.
I love-
Yeah.
No,
I love how you put
listen,
how the-
listen. Wait, Kenny, listen. A 1 can have a really attractive actress in it.
All I'm saying is that one, the one that gets the 1 is The Last Airbender. The 0 is Dragon Ball Evolution. There is nothing worse than that film, like period whatsoever. So if you can say
I
honestly
made some
that
pretty
you
bad
can
movies when I was
enjoy,
in high school that were probably worse than Dragon Ball Evolution.
dude, there are
I
literal
actually-
plays in high school that are better.
I actually
Sure.
give a Dragon Ball
There's also some of the
Evolution
worst.
a 1 for Marsters playing Piccolo and Chow Yun Fat. But those are like charity
I only give
points.
credits to credits were due when it comes to that film. Sorry, we're jumping off subject, but the only credit I can give that
Street
film
Fighter,
is
The
that
Legend of Chun-Li.
that's actually a good answer too.
But so here's why I say all that too, though, is because like, if I'm in a situation where I'm like I can't think of anything that would make this better for me, that's why I give it a 10, right? And if someone gives it like, something lower than like, man, I would have done things differently. As good as that might have made it for that individual, they probably would have made it worse for me then, right? So like, it's that balance of like, I feel like I was given something that for me is a 10, but that doesn't mean it needs to be the same for everybody else too. That's why opinions are opinions.
Yeah.
So real quick, NBM. Well, you didn't tell us. Go into detail on your favorite things about the show, and how it hits you. 3 favorite best moments.
I think specifically with season 2, because I think as the whole thing recontextualizes Rogue One, I think season 2 really recontextualizes season 1, and I think it does change it, because I thought season 1 in some places was a little bit too slow for me, which is why I preferred the release model that they did this time. I thought that worked so much better. But I think this recontextualizes now the whole arc of Andor. So I think for me, for season 2, it's Cyril's arc, because I think it really crystallizes just the banality of evil, but how fascism rises when people like him thinks he's just doing a good job. He's doing what he thinks is right up until he realizes he's not. Whereas the other Empire characters, people like Dedra, they know what they're doing is wrong, but they are doing it to further their own careers. They don't care. I think if he knew the Death Star was being built, it completely changes that character and that character's arc. So I loved that storyline. I loved Mon Mothma's speech, particularly just the specifics about where truth goes to die, or what happens when truth dies. And for pure joy, it's K2 coming into the rescue. And I think I don't know if you mentioned this, but I saw an interview with Gilroy where he said we knew we couldn't use him too much because he's just too powerful. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's got to survive, so he can't get into a situation that puts him in too much peril. But also, that means he's far too powerful as a character. And so I think they used him just perfectly and hilariously. And when he's coming to the rescue, when he's holding, I forget the character's name, the Jung's friend when he's holding him up the human shield. Yeah, it's just it's the cruelest. It's probably the cruelest thing in the whole series.
It's haunting. It's 2 a.m. night horror, just monstrosity in a hallway. It's like, oh my gosh.
But it's also joyous because you've seen, not him particularly, because what he's done, we haven't really followed him, so what he's done hasn't been particularly evil, but it's all part of that machine. He, in that moment, he represents all of them.
Yeah.
By the way, I love Star Wars' ability to do that with everything, with context, because it's a dingy, leaky, dirty hallway in the dark, and this big monstrous robot ragdolling a person, but you're happy because it's coming to rescue us. You know what I mean? But then you can compare that to like that
what
one
the
scene
soldiers
in
felt
season.
in the scene that happened.
No, I was saying in season 2 of Mando, when they're on the train and then there's the Raiders are like jumping up and then the Empire comes and kills them all and the music is all triumphant and you're like, yeah, oh, these are just people and this is their land. It's cool how Star Wars can kind of like juxtapose that. But one of the things you made me think of when you mentioned Cyril is that moment when he's like, is this the best day of my life? A, yeah, that was the best day of his life. But B, those 3 in that room, dead prison.
Yeah.
I have to head out. I got a movie date with my kids. We're watching the Minecraft movie for the first time, so.
Ooh, have fun.
Take it easy. Thank you for calling in.
Later, everybody. Yes.
All right. I also saw your message earlier. Forgive me. Should we call you MBM? Nothing but MIDI Media.
You can call me, but my name's Ryan if you want to, if that's easier for you.
Ryan. Okay. I saw your message earlier about you hope to see us on the Shellcast more often. It's just a scheduling thing. They stream when I'm working, and so.
Yeah, well, this is the first time I've been able to catch you guys live as well, because being in the UK, the timings don't always work out. But so yeah,
I appreciate it. I'm actually usually tuning into the Shellcast, when they're on, but I'm not able to personally call in. But Choco,
and I love
us.
I love some of the debunking that you've been doing recently as well. That's you've been executing that perfectly, and actually as well, I watched your Daredevil Born Again coverage, and I thought the point you made in that about how anyone seeing Trump in Kingpin, that's the reason you gave for that, I think applies here as well in Andor. If you think Andor is about the current American government, that says more about you and your relationship with the government than it does about the show, because that's not what the show is. The show is about how fascism rises and how it affects the people that fight back against it. So if people are mapping that onto the current US regime, then that says a lot about them. So I thought
those would have been the same people boycotting A New Hope when that came out too.
I kept seeing people like, man, it's this time like it was made as an attack, and I was like, Doug, this was written and shot before Trump got back in the office. You know what I mean? Like he's basing this off of a whole bunch of historical, rises. Yeah, the parallels are there,
which is horrifying.
It goes with something that James Cameron said when he was talking with George Lucas, and it's basically us not profiting from the lessons of history. We know all about it. We know about all of the signs of it, but we're not taking the lesson to heart. What's the big red book coming out for?
If I can find something real quick, I want to read some of George Lucas's words from the Big Red Book. Woo.
All right. VGC says, the lightsaber bleeding convo on Twitter is going to be the death of me. I don't understand why it's still a thing, to be honest. I mean, I get it. Like, if you didn't like that scene in particular and how it was executed, perfectly valid, but please don't, especially if you're gonna bring up the comic panels from Vader, like don't, because it's inaccurate. Also,
Yeah,
comic
I mean,
panels are
not-
2D and stationary, so you don't have a sense of time. Like you see like 3 pages of Vader trying to bleed the crystal, and you're like, this is a long and arduous process. Like, no, we see lightning.
like
it doesn't.
Fights
it
in
doesn't
Dragon
stay
Ball
there.
Z.
It's like the
Like-
lightning that's shooting out of his kyber crystal is not. It's not there for however long it took you to read the 3 pages. It goes. It just flashes. You know. So I'd imagine that bleeding process took a matter of like 6 seconds. But
Not
like,
to
still.
mention, like, in what world do you want to live where everything's the same for everyone always?
I mean, yeah. I mean, canonically, it's
Like,
different for everyone.
It's so much cooler when it can be like, yeah, the bleeding process is gonna work a bit differently depending on who's doing it, their trauma that they're pouring into it, the crystal that they got itself. Like, there being more variables makes it cooler, at least to me.
Also, arguably, May had the most hatred and the most trauma in that moment, like more than anyone else. I don't know why people think that Anakin was full of hatred when he was killing the younglings, because he doesn't hate them. You know what I mean? Like,
He was full of remorse, if anything.
yeah. No, I just, based off of what you said, Ryan, I just want to read some words from George Lucas from from a few years ago. It was just really funny because I stumbled onto this today. He says, we're all in a big symbiotic relationship with the rest of the world. As soon as one country says we're the only thing that's important, they aren't important. You start pulling threads that tear the world apart. They don't realize that when you shoot yourself in the foot, it hurts. How are you going to run the country without migrants? Didn't anyone tell you that they're the ones that do all the work? So I made a movie a while back that's basically what's going on right now. America needs trade with China and other countries. But if we pull out, you're going to have problems with the farmers in the Midwest who depend on that trade. If you rip down synergistic circle, in the end, you're going to end up with nothing. Someone's got to put it all together because it doesn't work. And he keeps saying this stuff that you're like, that's exactly...
Damn, he's
I don't know.
he's a
It's just funny. He's specific. He says people were mad at me because I started the prequels with this boring trade war, but that's how wars start with trade. That's everything he says is happening right now. It's weird.
He's a whole ass Nostradamus, man.
Isn't that weird? I don't know. It's word for word, bar for bar. It's crazy.
That's what I like about the Acolyte, the Witch's attitude to the Force, and how it's a thread, because it's what Lucas was saying essentially, and I think this is something that is intentionally hidden from us, is that we're all connected. We live on a web rather than being surrounded by the sort of atmosphere. We're all interconnected. Everything we do affects someone else, and then they will affect somebody else. It's the 6 degrees of separation. We're only six degrees away from every single person on the globe, or at least that was. I don't know if it's less now or more now because there's more people, but we're all interconnected. Everything we do, every purchase you make affects somebody's life in some small or large way, and so it all matters. So good on George for saying it.
I mean, the thread makes so much. It's literally like the description that Yoda gave, right? It binds us, it penetrates us, and that's a thread, or a rope or something.
Yeah, when you pull on a thread, then the person at the end comes with it, or is affected
Or pulls against it, yeah. And again, going back to Andor, I think that's what it showed wonderfully, how all of these people who were worlds apart. I mean, you've got Mon Mothma, who lives this very elegant, very rich lifestyle, and then you've got Andor, the sort of epitome of working class, and his story didn't start on that planet. His story started. He was. I guess he's essentially an immigrant. He came from an even more sort of primitive lifestyle, and yeah, it's just fascinating how. I mean, props to Gilroy. I know he didn't write everything, but but for bringing it all together in the way he did, and pulling all those threads essentially together to the end of the story. Just brilliant.
I really think of like Mon Mothma, the last scene of Mon Mothma at the end, when she's with the troops and she's with her cousin, and she's happy. And she's in a war. She's in a camp. That's the military. But every time we've ever seen her before, it's in these beautiful places. She's always in beautiful gowns, and everything's so cold and sterile, and she's alone. She has no one and nothing in those moments. And like, finally, she gets to let her hair down. And then we see her husband, who's still living this life. You know, he has the wife of the person who his kid married. But he's miserable. It's, you know, and I like how they really, I mean, man, they put their foot in it. You know what I mean? Like they everything was tied together so beautifully and tightly that I don't know. I don't have any complaints. I am curious of one thing though. I have seen some complaints about Bix at the end. Namely that it's a cop-out to just have her, you know, with Andor's kid at the end. That a lot of times women in Star Wars end up mothers or dead or both. And that's the end of their stories.
I mean,
I can see that.
I can see where they're coming from, but she's not the only woman in the show.
I mean, you look at Mon Mothma, who actually goes the opposite way. She leaves the family to be part of something bigger and finds herself there. And the other characters, Dedra doesn't get fulfillment from motherhood in any sense of the word. Despite where she ends up, it's only a twist of fate that puts her there.
Which is why I love the writing of the show so much, is because they show each character, no matter what, in multiple shapes and forms and sizes that they can inhabit. You know, a lot of the arguments we'll see most of the time about certain archetypes is that, you know, this type of person only exists in this form. But in this case, we see all kinds of, I mean, Vel and Cinta, you know, they were soldiers. Even Clea, you know, she, given what we've seen of her origin, is in a constant state of revenge tour. And she has to deal with the discipline that Luthen is instilling in her. And I love how poignant, and I've been saying that all night, but I love how poignant the scene is where, juxtaposed to Andor being like, "We'll take you to Yavin," and she's like, "That place, like that place is like an abomination to her because of Luthen, right?" It's like, and Andor is like, "This is something that you've built. This is what you and Luthen were like striving for," and she can see nothing but like disgust for Yavin and the whole kind of rebellion that isn't kind of working with Luthen at this point. But at the end of the show, when she wakes up and then she sees Vel, and towards the end with that montage, she's looking around at the soldiers marching and like everything that's been put into place, and there's this small, keen sense of pride that kind of swells over her, that maybe this thing was what she helped build, you know, even if it didn't match the outset that she had planned with Luthen, you know.
I could see that being a cop-out of a thing with Bix if she didn't have scenes beforehand talking about how her staying is only putting everything at risk, and the fact that more than anything she wants to win. but like it fits her character. She wanted to step away anyways, right? Like she needed to get out of the way so that way Cassian didn't have her to worry about on top of everything else.
And there's no way he would have ever gone anywhere knowing that she was pregnant either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's somebody who believes in the path that he's on. So like, nah, that's silly.
Yeah, I was asking.
Yeah.
It's not my point. It's just something I've heard some people say. But
Nemo in the chat said being a mother is not a cop out, and that's essentially it. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong
and
with
that
her.
wasn't their point. Like that's awesome if that's your choice. That's just a trope that happens a lot in media. But I also don't think that this is a specific case of that. And actually. Oh, I was going to say, I actually like the way it was written because her demeanor changes in that episode where we meet the Force Lady and stuff like that. And first, I thought maybe it's like a spiritual awakening, the way she's behaving. But no, in that moment, she absolutely knows that she's pregnant and knows, if he finds out. And based on what she said, if he finds this out, that's game over for the rebellion, possibly. And I think that's interesting. What were you going to say, Ryan?
I was just going to say it would have been a far bigger cop-out in this show if they'd made any of the characters related to any one of the other characters that we hadn't already established. So that would have been more of a fan service thing if they'd, because I know there was talk about Claire being possibly Andor's sister, which I think would have been a big cop-out.
Yeah.
And it would have, thematically, it would have worked in Star Wars, but it would have been a cop-out.
I saw a really weird comment yesterday where someone said, what if, which the timing doesn't match, but that's what makes the comment weird. They were like, what if their baby grows up to be Wedge? I'm like, no.
I heard the same thing, but with
what?
And I'm like, why would his name be Poe Dameron then? Like, no.
Well,
yeah, he was specifically born after Return of the Jedi, and he has parents, Shara Bay and Kes Dameron, and Shara Bay is named accurately. Shara Bay is
Hey, yo.
Ayo. Nemo says in the chat, Dedra getting the wrong Imperial messages, and that's how she gets info on the Death Star is hilarious. Which I profess this by
as
saying...
someone who's worked at a big corporation, it's funny how often that
as somebody
happens.
who's worked in government, I can tell you it happens more often than not as well.
As someone who lives in America, I know that they wrote and developed this show way before, but it's signal chat. It literally is the Secretary of Defense signal chat putting all that stuff out there. And everyone was like, well, at least Dedra had the wherewithal to own up to it. Everyone's like, nah, it wasn't me. It's not classified at all. Okay. You guys suck. Wait, Nemo said that Bix is 100% Cassian's sister. Can we not have another original trilogy moment like that?
No.
Pass.
Also
Yeah.
not possible. Also impossible because they grew up together. And,
As
she had
much
parents.
as I love it in Star Wars when like there is some fan service of like characters being connected or a character showing up and stuff like that, like it makes those characters more boring. Because no, they're not they're everywhere. They're doing everything. What makes characters special is when they have their moment to exist. Like Luthen being Luthen is great because it's Luthen. It's not like, well, he was secretly actually this character. It's like, no, that would be dumb. We can have more characters on the shelf.
Hey,
we don't
Luthen
need just
is
4 that we
related-
play with all the time.
Luthen is the nephew of Rael Alvaros because they both have Rael in their names. So that's how that works.
Yeah. So I'm also happy that they're not fast and furiousing it up of like, oh, actually, your brother runs an international smuggling ring, and you're like, okay, why is he white? What's happening? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's all super weird. I don't like when that happens. Plus,
one bit of
I like. Good.
I was just one bit of fan service that I saw in an interview with the actress who plays Claire. Apologies, I don't know her name.
Elizabeth
you do, I know.
DeLaw.
Yes, she said that apparently in the back room of Luthen's shop were the Sankara stones from Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
And I didn't spot them.
We spotted them in season 1.
There you go.
In season 2, but yeah.
Speaking of artifacts,
those types of things are awesome. Seeing the Calicories there, seeing the, you know what I mean? Like, I love that they did certain things to fully ground this in the Star Wars universe. Like, this doesn't make sense being anywhere but the Star Wars universe. But it still is a people story. Like, Star Wars is a fairy tale, right? A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away is a long time ago in a far away kingdom, right? And that's why these characters are simple archetypes. Andor is not that. It's not a fairy tale. These are people. They are not archetypes. You know what I mean? So they won't all fit into one neat box, and they're not supposed to. As cruel as it sounds, I love that Andor didn't find his sister. because it implies that, like the Tony said, this could be why he's so motivated. He left someone behind and never got her back, and that's why he always has to go back for everyone. He has to go back for Bix. He has to go back for Luthen or for Clea, because that's something that he's lost. And those types of things are real in people and what drives us. It makes sense.
Yeah, reality is we don't always get closure.
Yeah.
Closure's nice. It's a nice way to end a story. It's not how real life works. A lot of times we don't get it.
We got a lot more closure in this season, at the end of this season, than I was expecting, to be perfectly honest. I didn't expect to get... I think that, as you all said, I didn't think Bix was going to make it. I thought it was going to end much more tragically than it did for all of the characters who don't appear in Rogue One.
Yeah,
I
Willman's still around. He survives.
I honestly think now that story decision has more... that story decision played out better. Because it's actually... Bix dying is tragic, but it's a lot more tragic that she lives and they can't be together.
Mm-hmm. That was honestly
I
the
just
same
made
revelation
myself
that
like
I
the
had.
Quinlan and Asajj arc.
So that actually genuinely was what kind of wrecked me with the ending, because I was already like emotionally prepared for everybody in the show to just be dead, just the same way I kind of went into Rogue One as well. And it was that fact of like, I'll find you when this is all over. And I'm like, oh, my heart. Like now it hurts. Now it hurts. Ugh.
That's the
But
other thing.
I mean, it's true. How many soldiers don't make it home?
Shout out to Malik.
That's
Mark.
And that's why I also thought both Luthen's death, because it wasn't a blaze of glory, but it was what it needed to be. And that was also interesting, because in Star Wars, people mostly just die or they're just better. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's usually just one of those two things. But Ciro's death as well. It's over in a second.
Yes.
Yes, same thing with
Cinta's
Cinta
death too. Oh my gosh, that one hurt too, because it's like, this was so unneeded. And Vel's realistically, her speech with that was like, heartbreaking.
Yeah. Damn.
The show is just really good.
Yeah.
And the other thing, which is something something that you mentioned earlier, I think it was probably during your Ironheart chat, was that there's a huge amount of diversity in this show, and that has never been used as a negative. Or I think it was probably tried more in season 1, but the show is so good that they can't even use that as a wedge to drive fans away from this show, because it feels so natural. It is all, this is the world. This is
Just
the
people
universe.
being people.
Yeah.
But the weird part is they refuse to use that as a positive. Like, it is an absolute net positive for this show. You know, we have stories of motherhood with Mon Mothma. We have a story with the sexual abuse with Bix. You know, we have these like female specific story things. We have these immigrant specific storylines. We have, you know, people coming from war torn areas. We have, there's a lot of things that are very specific to diversity that really build up this show. And again, if you don't like a show and there's brown people in it, the reason it was bad is because they're brown people, and they put all their effort into having brown people because the writers, I don't know, they're like, oh, they're brown, we're done, we'll call that a day.
It's hard to put logic in a place where there isn't any.
It's the stupidest complaint. This is not an RPG where you only have 10 stat points and you're like, wow, we put it all in diversity, so wow, we're trying to min-max. Like,
I do like in the Tony Gilroy interview with Vanity Fair, they described Andor as showing how the gears of conflict are really greased by the blood of these people, these countless unknowns who sacrifice everything. And that's why it recontextualizes Rogue One so much, you know. And listen, seeing Pow and Melshi there, like at the beginnings of it, like that also kind of increases the impact of their existence on the beach of Scarif. And now we get to see, you know, he's been there. Pow dock drop at the cops up direct to the glink tiki vefni kek.
You only brought him up so you could say it. I was like, you only brought him up so you could say it.
Yes, I did. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it.
You should be. It's genuinely impressive.
I don't know anybody else that can say it.
I got Pow. That's where
I used to, but I've fallen out of practice. It's like a muscle. You have to
practice the name, which is the wildest
concept. It's a rhythm-based
concept.
game. You should be able to own it, Choco.
So the question that I had posed, you know, last week, I'm curious, you know, your thoughts, Ryan and Cal, on it. Is, I mean, we think this is the best, you know, show that's come out of Star Wars, but does this officially make the Rebelverse, is what I'm calling it, the best part of Star Wars, right? Like this it's about everything that's putting together the rebellion. You know, we have Rebels, we have Andor, we have Rogue One, and then we also have, you know, the books like Catalyst, Rebel Rising, and Mask of Fear. Is this now the best part of Star Wars?
I'll defer to Ryan first.
Oh, I was hoping you would go first.
Oh, I certainly can. I just didn't want to.
No, please do, because I need to gather my thoughts.
There's a reason why the Rebel Alliance logo is the only tattoo I have over my heart. It was already my favorite part of Star Wars, and it's only been exacerbated by this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was already my favorite. It's just only gotten better, right? So it's just it's been the icing on a cake that I've enjoyed over the past like 25 years.
I think for me it's probably, it's definitely the most well executed. It's the most well done. There's always going to be a part of me that prefers the space wizards fighting with their laser sword, because I mean that's part and parcel of it, and I don't think they've quite handled the Jedi's right in a sort of overarching story yet. But then maybe the sort of pre Luke Skywalker Jedi's were a little bit sort of boring, and I just not necessarily as a concept, but what do you do? It's like the problem with KS. What do you do with characters that powerful? You have to make the enemies more powerful, and then it's sort of that escalation. So yeah, it's definitely the best handled, and it probably will be for a little while yet, I think. Although just to finish, I'm fascinated to see the sort of the Mandalorian side of things. What are the people who weren't part of the Rebels doing?
Yeah, I might see that too.
Because they were being neutral.
You brought up a really good point about like what's the kind of enemy you can give Jedi that actually makes it make sense. And that was a big thing about what I loved about the High Republic was, okay, so you have the Jedi, quote unquote, at their prime. What could possibly be their enemy if the Sith aren't a thing? And that's why the High Republic books do so well, is because they answer that question and they give a threat that it's like, even a Jedi can't deal with this. Like, you can't, like, this is too big of a problem for individuals, no matter whether they're space wizards or not. You can't fix this. Not to spoil anything, because I think it's genuinely something that folks should just jump in and start reading with Light of the Jedi. But like, yeah, it's a tough thing to balance, and I think the Galactic Republic era of Jedi is kind of that weird situation of like, well, everything's a problem until a Jedi shows up, and now it's not a problem. And I felt the same way with season 2 of The Mandalorian, where it's like the Dark Trooper droids were horrifying until they weren't. And so it's like, okay, like, it is hard to do that. And I do feel like the Clone Wars, in my opinion, that era doesn't do it the best. Like, the only times that we ever like feel what it feels like to be in war is when we're solely following the clones. And then as soon as it's like a Jedi's there, it's like, okay, well, we know how this is going to go. Unless somebody like Asajj or Dooku or somebody else shows up, this is a wash.
Yeah. I mean, the Jedi face what's usually called the Superman problem, right? And I think that's why they're so hard to write for, because at their core, like, what are they supposed to do? Like, either they're fixing all of the problems, or it's something that they are not supposed to fix. You know what I mean? Like, if I always get people who are like, well, this thing is occurring in the far reaches, how come they haven't fixed that? And you're like, listen, you can't just run it over there and do stuff, because you'll start a war and then more people will die. Like, how much political power do they need to solve that problem? And do you think that's what they should pursue? Probably not. Like, what do you want them to do? And that's, Superman has the same problem. What crime still exists? Why? Because, Superman couldn't get rid of all crime, but in those stories he becomes, like an authoritarian. Yeah, it's just, I know it's difficult. I think they can do it though. I think I think Rebels is my favorite Jedi story, specifically because it is that starting small. But yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll pull it together in Ahsoka season 2. I'm hopeful.
Well, I think because we watched Rogue One directly after season 2 of Andor, and then we watched the original trilogy directly after that, and I think what sort of hamstrung the universe a little bit on the Jedi side of things is the solidification of the Jedi being the black and whiteness of the Jedi and the Sith. Because if you watch Return of the Jedi, Luke, because he's not fully in sort of control of his Jedi powers, he's choking people out with Force powers, which is something that the Jedi are not supposed to do, and he's sort of doing things that the original Jedi, were not supposed to do. And so I think the sequels could have been interesting if they'd explored that more. And I'm wondering if the Rey, if they ever do the Rey series, is it going to blend those two sides a little bit more? Is it going to say it's fine to have relationships? That is not a weakness. That is a strength, and things like that. So I think that's the side of things that I would like to see explored post sequels.
I mean,
Yeah, I think
that's already
that's
stuff
something-
that's explored in the High Republic too.
But I think that's something that they are going to do with the New Jedi Order, because, well, this is why we love The Last Jedi, is because Luke's entire arc is a love letter to the prequels, the hubris of the Jedi, and what we get out of that movie is the texts that he had collected and that Rey is studying from. And of course the next movie takes place a year out from there, but that doesn't afford her nearly the enough time to have, truly poured over those texts and come up with an interpretation herself. And that's why I think the New Jedi Order will explore how she reconciles with the teachings that were passed down through these texts, with the teachings that Luke passed on, and with the teachings that she brings out of her own intrinsic feeling, right? Because still, from A New Hope to the sequel trilogy, the Order was lost, and much of that knowledge is gone, and so a lot of it will come down to extrapolation and what she gleans from those texts. And so there will be a lot of exploration of those themes for sure, but I would also argue that the Acolyte executed the Jedi really well. This is why I said this is why me and Choco are DYAD, because we had the same exact thought, is that the Jedi have a problem, but I would also argue that the problem with the Jedi and media literacy is that the very nebulous nature of what the Jedi seek to espouse and disseminate is very nuanced and very, very prone to misinterpretation. And so when we have a show like The Acolyte, where the Jedi are just studying a planet that has come back to life, having seemingly been barren, that's all they're doing. And they encounter this coven, and the Jedi in charge goes to the council and says, this is happening, and the council's like, leave them alone. But of course, with storytelling, we have exigent circumstances that drives Soul to act, that drives Torben to act, and then that's when we get the conflict. But essentially, that's what the Jedi would do. They're diplomats, they're negotiators, they're agriculturists. That's what they study. They study vocations. And them studying the planet and then them being like, no, leave this group alone, they didn't do anything wrong, is essentially a good portrayal of what the Jedi would be normally, right? And then we get the prequels where they are beset by two horrible choices presented by Palpatine, who is kind of pulling the strings on both sides. And then we have the originals where they're largely lost and we just have Yoda that's teaching. And then we have the sequels where Luke ran into his first real failure ever since becoming a legend, and that drove him to shame. But also what he says about the Jedi isn't wrong. Their hubris, the creation of the Sith, or the creation of the Empire and stuff like that. So This is why I loved The Acolyte, even though I had plenty of issues with it. Like, especially when they came out and said, "We do not take children," even though Soul kind of just took a child afterwards. But that's the thing, right? The Jedi are not a monolith. They stand for something, but their members do stupid shit, right? The Jedi are the peacekeepers and guardians of peace. And when Palpatine integrates them into the Grand Army, they become soldiers. When Dooku sees the corruption of the Senate, he's seduced by the darkness in Palpatine and his kind of, for a lack of a better word, you know, his candy from the van. So he becomes Darth Tyrannus. He becomes Darth Tyrannus and becomes the corruption that he spotted. So it is all just very, like, George Lucas, if not the best writer of dialogue, was a visionary when it came to world building, and the conflict between the Jedi and the Sith and the Jedi in the galaxy is so nuanced that a lot of people misunderstand their teachings and their stance on things. But they're also at the mercy of their individual members, because while they're dogmatic, they do not espouse dogma. Right? They have Qui-Gon Jinn, Quinlan Vos, all kinds of Jedi that think critically and individualistically, but that also means you're going to have members of the Order that make mistakes, that make the wrong decisions. And so that's what troubles the Jedi so much.
What's interesting is you'll notice that whenever a Jedi does something good, people attribute it to that Jedi being different, and then when a Jedi does something bad, they attribute it to the entire Order. Mm-hmm. That's just something I always notice. But yeah,
I mean,
no, it's like
The Living Force by John Jackson Miller. That one seeker failed at their job to make sure that the family that they recruited a youngling from was taken care of. That was their protocol. It was a seeker protocol. They failed. And so that person that came back on a revenge tour was targeting the entire Order for that one seeker.
yeah, that's not what they were supposed to do in the beginning. Yeah.
And I think what you were saying about the Acolyte is also one of the things that I loved, how it explored the Jedis as human. And I think, again, what you said about media literacy is that people have got this idea in their heads that the Jedi are perfect, when we've never seen a perfect Jedi. We've seen some of them say that, or sort of hints towards that their ideas are perfect, but we've never actually seen. They all make mistakes. I mean, the thing about the controversy, or the fake controversy, about Ki-Adi-Mundi being in the Acolyte, he got stuff wrong in the prequels basically the whole way through. Every sort of line he has, he's saying the wrong thing.
That's the nuance of media literacy. It's like, this is literally happening right now. It is an inference of a character in universe. It is not a rule. It's not a rule of the magic system. Like, because in my recent video, I was like, he's wrong in that scene. Qui-Gon just fought a Sith.
We've seen both of the Sith already in this movie before Qui-Gon, before he says that.
And then his other big line is that Count Dooku wouldn't kill anybody. He's just a diplomat. Yeah. It's like, no, he's the main villain in this film. And
that's why I love Mace Windu. Sorry, that's just something I always have to. That's why I have to always stand up, because Mace Windu was like, I don't believe Count Dooku could have killed him. Like, he didn't believe
he was
it could
once
be
a Jedi like us. It's not in his character.
Who's the guy who walks up and approaches Dooku? Mace Windu. That's why I love him. He will say, "Nah, no way," but he's still ride or die. He's still riding a shotgun. You know what I mean? When in Tales of the Jedi, he's with Count Dooku, and they hear the report, and they're like, that doesn't make any sense. This guy is full of crap. Mace is like, all right, let's go back. Let's take her body back. That's our mission. We'll tell the council so we can make an investigation, right? Dooku's like, nah, we're solving this right now. Take us to the place. And Mace is like, I disagree. But let's go. You know, he was ride or die with him, right next to him to make sure his buddy stayed safe, even though he didn't agree with his decision.
And this also goes right back to the original trilogy, where our only image of what the Jedi are comes from Obi-Wan, and he lies quite a lot as well, from a certain perspective.
I mean, the other misconception, people are like, oh, the Jedi, they teach you to have no emotion. You can't have any emotions. Have you ever seen a Jedi who wasn't emotional? All of them are, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Obviously that's not true. All of them
that doesn't mean Obi-Wan's not going to cry when Qui-Gon dies. Like,
yeah, you know, it's funny. I think, you know, somebody always says there's a lot of people who have gone through real, like, religious deconstruction who put that on the Jedi, and that's what they needed in that moment to get past. And I don't want to take that away from anyone. You know what I mean? Your journey's your journey. You do you.
It's like
I just have to point out, like, but the Jedi are way more of a job than they are a religion. It's a job that you can quit. You know what I mean? It's a job that, you know.
You can quit religion too.
Well, that, yes, but like I love.
Not all of them.
I love Last of Us. Right? What Joel does at the end of the first game or at the end of the first season makes sense, right? That's what any parent would do. It's what you do for a loved one. That would be awful for a Jedi to do. You know what I mean? Like, I want politicians to put all of the people first, not put the people that they really love first, because that's their job. You know what I mean? And if they want to put those people first, quit the job. You know, that's how it is.
That's why a lot of the misunderstanding comes from people who haven't dealt with their religious traumas, is because of the Jedi Code, and they see that as rules, right? But the line "there is no emotion" is all about connecting to the Force. Every single line is about connecting to the Force. Because you are Force sensitive, you are held to a much higher standard than everyone else. Because Joe Schmo on a farm might get angry, but the Force is not going to, it's not, his connection to the Force isn't so strong that it's going to amplify that emotion and cause him to, you know, genocide a planet like a Jedi does. But
well, I think going back to it again with the Acolyte, the witch's connection to the Force, they see it very differently. They want to be more emotional because they think that is the way to really harness the what they see as the power of the Force. And so, and this is why obviously the Jedi think they're Sith, or they think they're dark side users, because they're ultra emotional.
I mean, what happens to anyone that the Sith loves? They all die. They all.
But this is also something that the Jedi are very, very aware of as well.
Yeah.
Like, this is something in the High Republic comics where there's the Convocation of the Force that's meeting on Jedha. There's the faction of the Yukon, that they're all Darksiders, and there's a Padawan in that comic, or not Padawan. There's someone in the comic who's a part of the Jedi, who thinks that they are wholly evil, right? And then there's a master. It's like, you know, don't assume that, you know, we don't know they're what they're all about, or something like that. I forget the quote, but the lesson was there. It's like, don't assume that they're all bad.
I mean, we see that with May and Osha, right? Like, realistically, two sides of the same coin, and both kind of dip their toes into both spaces in a way. And it's like, yeah, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which Jedi, Sith, whatever. At the end of the day, it's still going to be people as people. Like, they're going to be fallible, make mistakes. They can try and live a certain way, but like, you know, that's why I always say, like, whenever anybody complains about movies, or I work in IT, so a lot of people complain about technology and stuff like that. I'm like, at the end of the day, it's still made by people.
Yep.
People aren't perfect. This isn't going to be perfect.
The biggest gripe that I have with this conversation is the people that acknowledge all this stuff about fallibility and you know, hubris with the Jedi, and go, that's why the Sith were right.
I think sort of tying into that is the, like, the people who really need to watch Andor won't understand what the message is of Andor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a post.
We've been seeing a little bit of that, yeah.
That's why I always say the people who go to therapy because of things done to them by people who didn't go to therapy.
There was a post on TikTok that was it was Mon Mothma and Andor, like, during the escape, and then Mon Mothma looks like horrified, and the caption above her is me watching the Gorman massacre, and then on Andor's face of like dejection, it's like me also realizing I can no longer defend the Empire. And I was like, for Christ's sake, since 1977, how have you found the gall to defend the Empire? Like, the first movie is a planet-wide destruction, and the most
Listen,
I could come up with.
They were using the Alderaanians as human shields, so
The Alderaanians provoked them.
The most I can come up with in defense of anything is some of them are people showing up to do their job. They're not all fascistic, but like, at the same time, if we're talking about the Empire, they're bad. Like, the writing's on the wall. You don't really need to travel through Nuance Highway to arrive there.
They even color coded everything for a reason.
I mean, you can have a detailed and nuanced argument about whether the Jedi are wholly good or good in general, all you want, but you can't argue that the Empire are bad, because they definitely are, and they couldn't give you any more clues towards it.
I mean, yeah.
They're just wild people out there.
I don't know, man. Again, Choco said this a couple of weeks ago. It's the syndrome of waking up one day and realizing that you align with the bad guys and you just can't cope with it. You're like, but you know, there was things were more.
But they're drippy.
There was order.
The Empire does have the best drip. It is superior, except for Chanel boots, Luke.
Only because they destroyed Gorman. Maybe that was the real reason they destroyed the planet.
You got a point there.
It was all about the fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
You're like,
that's really funny.
After that massacre, Krennic's capes got a lot nicer. That's all I'm saying.
By the end of all of this, Palpatine, Sith Eternal Emperor, you looking... How'd your robes change color?
Well, listen.
This was the dark magic all along.
It wasn't the silk. It was the substrate calcite. But they still left with silk. You know, after the massacre, they could take whatever they want.
You didn't say it sharp enough. Yeah. It's calcite.
It's foliated substrate calcite. It still makes me think of Jordan Peterson.
But what you were saying about people sort of coming to this realization that maybe they are the bad guys, that's the revelation of Cyril. That's his journey.
And that's why I actually really love his death, is because he has that moment of revelation, but then sees Andor and immediately reverts back to you're my problem. You've been and it's like, bro, if anything, you should have woken up and realized, oh, that's why he's doing what he's doing. I need to introduce myself and join him. But no.
Well, that's why.
That's why he gets the ending he gets. Like
the two opposing ideologies collide, right? That's because when Andor asks
cognitive
him
dissonance.
When Andor asks him, "Who are you?" Andor is literally asking him, "Who are you? I don't know you." But it connects to the father who asks, "Who are you?" You know, as it relates to the larger problem with the Empire. And so Andor's just asking him what,
part of the solution.
Andor's just asking him, "Who are you? I don't know you." But then, like in Cyril's head, he's like, "Who am I?" And that's when
I am a part of the problem. Yeah.
I wonder if that happens. You know, you said like some of the fans that probably need to watch it won't understand it. I wonder if that thing happens to them, where they're watching something and it's clicking and it's making sense and they're about to like make a change and then they're like, a black mermaid? Hell no! And then it all just goes away. I'm just curious if that ever happens.
On that very
Probably does. Is
on
the
that very-
heartbreaking thing.
on that very same post with the defense of the Empire, the comments were crazy. One of them was like the Republic was even worse. They had a whole clone army and everything, and I'm just like,
Thane, leave my mic alone.
did you guys forget Palpatine ruled both governments? Like, he's the problem. I mean, the Empire is a problem too, but like he enabled all of this. So
It was all bad because of his plan as a bad person.
Listen, the biggest issue under Finis Valorum was the trade dispute, and even then, that was brought upon by Palpatine. Like, things were chill, and the Palpatine went up to the Trade Federation. They're like, "I think you guys can get more money out of this," and then they're like, "We should. I will be the first Asian on Star Wars."
No.
It's funny because like even like the roots of that plan start in the in the Padme books, and it's funny because it makes it clear that the Sith were in control of the Republic before Episode 1 started. It just wasn't public. They needed public control.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I feel like
Go for it.
if people watched, if the Phantom Menace came out today, people would be blaming Padme for Anakin going to the dark side. I feel like that's where we are.
There's some
still
people that
do.
do today.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the truly upsetting thing is there's people that
What was
still
the-
do.
What was the hang up a couple of years ago? Padme didn't do enough or didn't have the,
Yeah, she wasn't supportive enough of
reaction.
him or something like that. Yeah.
No, Padme didn't have the correct reaction to him saying the women and children too.
Yeah.
That was the hang up a couple of years ago.
Yeah, between the Anakin conversations and the John Walker conversations, I'm like, man,
Oh my gosh, I did see
That one's
video.
getting really frustrating for me as well.
if I had a nickel for every time they absolved the white guys of their crimes, I would have millions of dollars.
billion.
Oh, stop it. All right.
Chaos Kitten.
Dang.
Hey,
Going in kitty jail.
sorry,
So now-
he was knocking stuff over.
Now we look to the future, and the future is Mandalorian and Grogu. And unfortunately, because this show is so good, we can't have anything that's better or of the same quality. Right?
Never
Or
again.
even not as good, but still good. It's all got to be worse.
That's something that I could vent about it for too long, but I do feel like there's been this weird entitlement in media consumers to where it's like if the sequel's an 8 out of 10 to something that was a 9 out of 10 for you, that doesn't mean it was bad.
Yeah.
Like not like it's one of the frustrations I have working in like corporate America, as well as like all those, you know, we're not at a revenue profit for the year, blah blah blah. It's like, but we're still doing great. Just because we're not expanding and opening new locations and stuff like that, like eventually you can only grow so large. So like having it to be where every year we need to beat last year's goal and last year's goal and last year's goal, I'm like, you will exhaust yourself doing that. It's not possible. It's not feasible. And it's the same thing with media. Like, enjoy everything. Don't, like, the only person you're hurting by not enjoying it is yourself. Like, enjoy something that's a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Like, find what you love in a thing.
And this is something that, because I tend to look at older media on my channel, I'm at the moment more focused on TV, and I'm talking sort of 70s TV here. So I've been reviewing every episode of The Rockford Files, and I don't know if you've even heard of the show, but it's it's actually remarkably progressive for now, even not just for the 70s. But not every episode is a 10 out of 10. There are peaks and troughs. There are some episodes I like more than others that people who watch the videos hate, and vice versa. And this is in the old system when every series was 24 episodes. About a third would be good, a third would be bad, and a third would be average, and that's what the writers were aiming for. So it's not always, the line doesn't always go up, and that's fine.
Yeah, you don't, like, that's what makes those things special, is because they stand out as being exemplary, right? Like, I play a lot of games, like Overwatch, League of Legends, stuff like that. When a new character comes in, like, oh my god, this character is not even as good as whatever. It's like, okay. You realize you can still play that character, right? You realize you can still go back and watch the original trilogy. It's not going anywhere.
Well, even playing sort of match games, if you won every time, you stop playing it. Just if you lost every time, you have to have the wins and the losses. And
the system's designed to keep you around a 50% win rate. That's how they get you to stay playing it.
And obviously, it's disappointing if you consume some media that lets you down, that you don't like.
Sure.
But just leave it. You don't have to go back to it.
I always bring back the analogy. I don't remember if it was Brandon or Pep who brought it up, but it's like you're walking through a field and you see a turd, and you're like, ah! And you need to get everybody's attention, and it's like, just keep walking. Why are you stopping?
That I brought up.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Guys, look at this. It's so true. Yeah, it's like, who cares? Keep moving. Like, what? You're in a field of flowers, and that's what you're focusing on? Like, come on.
Yeah,
hey guys,
no, they take a picture of it.
Like walking by, and he's like, "I'm walking my dog right now. I'm pretty sure I'll see some poop, so I don't need to see yours."
Yeah.
And then 10 years later, they're still pulling up the photograph of like, do you remember this?
Dog poop?
And you're like, Jesus Christ.
Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Go do something. I don't know, man. Like, watch something you enjoy. It's weird.
I mean, yeah, that's so true. I'm sure you all saw there was a video recently complaining about The Last Jedi, and it's just like, okay, move on. You only had to watch that film once.
It was 8 years ago.
Is it been?
It was 8 years.
It's been 8 years, yeah.
Oh my god. I wish my life was that simple to where, like, that's the only thing that I need to fixate on as being a problem is an 8-year-old movie. Like, give me that life, please.
I know why.
That's why I give Star Wars Theory credit for stopping covering, and I don't know if he actually stopped. I don't.
Well, the reason he did wasn't because he wasn't.
Oh no, his reason was stupid. But the reason was stupid. But the effect was delightful. But honestly, I would respect it if he would make his own IP. Write something, create something, add something, you know? If you're not liking what's happening, rather than, you know, cringy AI fanfic, which there's nothing wrong with writing fanfic, but like, just go make something, you know?
But
let that inspire you.
This is Carpet Nugget Playbook 101, though. let's see, Lego rebuilding the galaxy. That was good in their eyes, so they started making videos about how it was better than the Acolyte. Andor, it's really good, so they have to start talking about the Last Jedi again and the Acolyte and all of the other stuff that riles up their jaded audience. If something is good and they can't make videos about it, they have to dig up old movies that they were successful in making money on.
I genuinely don't understand how how their fans can watch them make video after video after video, sometimes dozens, on something that hasn't come out yet that they've decided is bad, and then more videos about why it's bad, and then something like Andor comes along and they are completely silent about it until they've judged the mood.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why the fans aren't thinking, well, it's weird that they made 1,000 videos about the Acolyte, but they've only made 3 about Andor.
What I think is really funny is one of the biggest videos that was attacking Captain Marvel as a film came out a full year before the movie.
That's funny.
A full year, and it was a complete cinematic failure, and it was had hundreds of thousands of views a full year before it came out. Now it's in millions of views, and I don't think people look at the date, but it's just really funny.
Well, they got burned on that one because it did $1 billion, but then they had their excuses. What's interesting now is with Andor and with Sinners, 2 properties that are completely against what they say makes good entertainment, the diverse cast, the sort of everything that we've talked about, and the success of those 2 has completely disproven everything they've said.
Yeah.
I also have to give a small...
To y'all in the chat really quick, I actually tried to collect every black character's action figure in Star Wars. And I had all 3. I
tried to collect Asian.
You know what though? Actually, now they do have a Wilbur Hood action figure, so I do need to find that. The 3rd was Captain Panaka. Captain Panaka had an action figure, and no, he's not the same person as Captain Typho.
that one always got me.
Back then, I tried to collect Asian figures. I just didn't like Nemoidians. I have to give a small cookie to Snarky J for her coverage of Andor, even though the context surrounding her praise of the show is again at the expense of like comparing it to lesser shows in her opinion. It's great that she was able to enjoy Andor, but she's got the audience, so she will frame it around this is better than the Acolyte, But that's
Phineas brings up a good point in chat too.
That's the extent with the cookie I send her.
With talking about Kathleen Kennedy and stuff like that. Like, I love seeing Tony Gilroy in interviews being like, yeah, no, she made a point to be like, hey, this stuff you've been kind of talking about, let's go and do this, please, because this sounds, yes. But no, no one's going to give credit for her, being an executive producer.
I think he is in tune with what the internet is saying, basically. I think with his comments about Kathleen Kennedy, and also I saw a live Q&A thing they did where they had a couple of people submit questions by video, and he recognized a couple of the YouTubers on there. I think he is more in tune than he lets on, and I think he's aware of just the sheer amount of heinous shit that Kathleen Kennedy has been given, and he's on the inside and he knows it's all nonsense.
I feel like that's also partly that is partly what's contributing to a lack of videos in bad faith on Andor, is because you can't. You can't. It's a great show. Kathleen Kennedy helped push it. Get
She
over
was
it.
incredibly supportive, which
Yeah.
which is contrary to the narrative that she's constantly interfering with every single project. And we released a video today about the interview, and one of the comments I got, they probably didn't even watch the video. It was, to be fair, she did ruin Star Wars with Disney, and I say this with so much gusto. She was not a Disney hire.
She was there beforehand.
Lucas hired her and was handing over the company in the process of giving her the reins, because
That
he
was literally the
preparing.
contract. That was like, I'll sell this to Disney, but Kathleen needs to be the person running it. That was literally what he signed.
And Iger was
Yeah.
like,
No,
that was
no, but
George's words.
What you were saying though before about how they can't say anything bad about Andor, just reminds me of what Sam Wilson said at the end of Brave New World about him as Captain America needing to be perfect for the people that are coming up behind him, because that's what it is. If our projects are not perfect, then they will get hated into the ground, so that we're not allowed to make them anymore. We're not allowed to be mediocre. We're not allowed to exist. We don't get second chances.
Don't get off days.
Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I think that's we've been going for quite a while.
Yeah, we're just
Thank
about
you
to
for
wrap things
having
up here.
me join you for this long as well.
Yeah,
thoroughly
thank you
enjoyed
so
it.
much for hanging
Thank you
out.
for calling in.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
I'll make
sitting
it. I'll
here-
make it a point to hop into the showcast more often.
Don't
I'm
don't
just-
feel any pressure to. Just when you're available, it's always good, especially at the obviously busy time for you with the success of Andor. But yeah, it's
I'm just sitting here on the TikTok side, has one final question, and I suppose we'll entertain it before we wrap things up. I do want to thank everyone on the TikTok side. We are at 8,100 likes. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us today, as well as everybody else in the YouTube chat. I'm just sitting here asks, do y'all think the sequels will ever get the same treatment the prequels got? I think that's the only way for them to be seen in a good light, like the prequels. And I'll relegate the answer to you guys, but I do want to preface it by saying that they've already started. You know, Mandalorian is in the sequel era. Starfighter is going to be in the sequel era. Skeleton Crew is a sequel era, so they are fleshing out that era. We have plenty of books in that era, and the next couple of movies, like I said, Starfighter and New Jedi Order, is after the sequels, so they've already begun. But let us know what you guys think.
I mean, I'll just say right out the jump that I think that I see a ton of positive buzz for The Last Jedi, specifically nowadays, that I didn't see a few years ago. And I think as time goes on, I mean, that film, for one, will get more love as time goes on. I'm not a fan of Rise of Skywalker, but like, it has a higher Rotten Tomato score than Revenge of the Sith already. You know, but yeah, I think absolutely they will just get better with age, as the people who grew up with them as part of the Star Wars universe will just enjoy them. People who grew up going to Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland and hanging out with Rey and going on the rides, you know, they're just going to enjoy them. And then we're going to get a lot more media. That's everything that's on the way, and even some of the new like comic series are filling out that space. So yeah.
And then we're gonna get our first Old Republic movies, and that'll be the new target for everyone's ire, because it's a generational cycle of hate.
I was as somebody a little bit older than I think the three of you. I was 16 or 17 when Phantom Menace came out, so I was right in the heart of that.
Yeah, me too.
Oh right, you were.
I'm 39. I'm 85.
You're wearing it far better than me. Then I've got the grey and feel like a much older man. But
I'm Asian.
well, I didn't want to say it, but yeah, I can remember being. In fact, there's a video on a channel called Hippo Clipped about this. Every single Star Wars project has had criticism from the Star Wars fans, apart from A New Hope. It's the only film that hasn't been criticized by a certain amount of the fans. Exactly.
That's just it, though, is it wasn't criticized by fans of it, but it was heavily criticized at the time that it came out because it broke so many movie norms.
Even by Empire, a section of the Star Wars fan base criticized Empire as being a terrible film, and then Return of the Jedi. And so, like you said, it's weird that a film series where the whole point is to break cycles of hate generates cycles of hate every time they do films. And it happened with the prequel trilogy, and now it's beloved by people who were kids growing up with that. And the sequel trilogy, 10 years from now, will be beloved by kids whose first experience with Star Wars was basically on the big screen was the sequels, and we know a lot of people went to see them because they made a lot of money.
I argue it's going to be a larger wave because this generation of kids that grew up at the sequels also have Galaxy's Edge and all of this stuff. Like Choco said in a previous video, they grew up inside Star Wars. They could go into Batuu, they could ride the Falcon, they could do all this stuff, meet these characters, whereas when we were growing up in the prequels, we only had cons and like cosplay.
We had to use our imaginations like a bunch of idiots.
They hit each other with sticks in the yard and make the sounds
They've never known a
themselves.
time without Star Wars either. Like growing up for me, you had the 3 films. We never even got the holiday special in the UK. It was that badly received in the US. We had the 2 cartoon series and the 2 Ewoks films, and they were not a substitute for the original trilogy. So that's all we had until '99.
Yeah, and if you grew up growing up during the prequels, really quickly, Star Wars was nerd culture. It wasn't pop culture. Just like D&D is today. When you played D&D back then, you were a freak, for lack of a better collective term. But you play D&D now, it's popular. You've got actors and celebrities playing D&Ds. Just like with Star Wars and even Marvel comics, like everybody goes to the theaters to see Marvel movies, even if they're not comic book fans. It's its own segment now. And so like with the prequels being hated and stuff like that, growing up in that's because you were largely on the forums and you were a small segment of the population. But now, because it is so it has proliferated, this generation of Star Wars fans is even larger, so it will grow into a massive movement akin to the prequel love that we're getting now.
Here's the thing I need Lucasfilm to do though in the future. I need them to cast a completely unknown, totally androgynous trans character as Revan. Mm-hmm. That's what I need, because Revan could be it could be anything, could be anyone. If they are also racially ambiguous, the better. But because they're an unknown, you should like don't even reveal who the person is, so they don't know what
like
gender
a bloodhound situation.
You know what I mean? So they don't actually know, and so they can't be mad because they can't figure out which way to be mad. And I think that would just be funny.
Much harder to do now in the social media age. Because the original Frankenstein, he was just credited, Boris Karloff was credited as question mark, and nobody knew who he was. But in the social media age, they'd have to find somebody without a social media presence, which isn't easy. But although Elon Musk has made that easier now.
Just sitting here, asked, does anybody know the vid they were talking about where it says people hated The Empire Strikes Back? You're not really going to have a video because back then everything was in the newspapers.
Oh no,
No, he's
Hippo
referring
Clipped
to
one.
from
yeah.
Hippo Clipped.
I can't remember which one
Oh.
it is. It's one of the ones covering the Acolyte. I think. Oh, it's Star Wars is Dead. I think.
Yeah, but I was actually recently asked to make a video specifically on the hate that Empire Strikes Back got. So I am going to do so.
I remember I got beat up in school for having an episode 1 backpack.
Jeez.
And then now we have a theme park. So I remember there was a time after Revenge of the Sith where it was like, that's it. There's going to be no more Star Wars. We're done. We got this last movie and that was going to be it. And we had like the Old Republic MMO that was coming out and I was like, okay, that might be okay. And then thanks to Disney, we have so many shows, movies, a theme park, like
Well,
it's everywhere.
Here's the
It's like
thing.
Fortnite.
The thing is, like, I had personal friends that like found my content and they're like, "You like Star Wars?" Listen, everyone always loved it already. We just couldn't talk about it because we were told how much everyone hates everything, and it becomes this whole like cycle. You know, they win by making us feel like we're alone, but there's more of us, and that's truly always the case. That's what I see.
Yeah. Back then it was 40-year-old virgin, right? He has everyone's trying to make him get rid of all of his toys because the girl's not gonna
Yeah.
think of him as a man. But then like you have figures and toys and lightsabers in your room. There's gonna be someone out there who's like, dang, that's hot. You know what I mean?
You just have to have game, you know.
You don't always
Game
need
respects
game.
game.
Sometimes you just need to find the person that likes the toys that are in your room.
Yeah.
And brings more.
I got made fun of for liking Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. Funny story. With
Yeah,
my tattoo
that was a
artist.
big controversy as well at the time.
And you can say what you want. I know a lot of people hate the Ewoks, but the scene, the death scene of the Ewok in that is still brings
brutal.
a tear. Still brings a tear because it's these two basically short actors in furry costumes are able to convey emotion of sort of their first experience with death,
Yeah.
and it's powerful stuff.
Well, especially like unjust death, where it's not like,
Yes,
oh yeah,
yeah.
we died on a hunt, or we died of old age, or anything like that. It's like, no, you should be fine. Why
You know
aren't
what
getting
always
out?
got me?
It's like, oh god.
One thing that always got me was Malakili. when the Rancor dies, the Rancor handler breaks down crying.
yeah.
That always made me so sad as a kid. I always saw
Same.
the Rancor as like a giant pit bull.
That's
Funny
one
story.
thing you just reminded me of one thing that Andor connecting to the whole Star Wars universe is that it was filled with some brilliant British character actors that I know most Americans won't have a clue of where they've seen them before or if they've seen them at all. But there's so many faces I'm like, oh, he's from that TV commercial that aired 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's something that from the original.
I was just happy to see that Cinta is now on Doctor Who. So when I watch that, I have that to look forward to.
Funny story with Ewoks in general. Not the best segue, but a funny story with my tattoo artist is that even though I've gotten a Star Wars tattoo from her, she's not a Star Wars fan. But just recently for May 4th, their parlor was doing a Star Wars flash, right? And she was like, "Hey, you're the Star Wars guy. I need like help with this." And so I gave her a crash course on everything Star Wars, and she asked for some things that she could make designs out of so that she could sell some designs. And one of the things I showed her was the Jawas and Ewoks, and she became a fan of Star Wars because of them. She's like, I'm gonna watch the movies now. I was like, okay, that's what got it. Okay, I guess. Thanks for the Satil Shah tattoo, though.
And I've said it before, I'll say it again, but bears with opposable thumbs that use weapons, we are all screwed. Like, you act like they aren't a threat, that's a threat. You have no idea.
I mean, what's the next question? 100 men versus 1 Ewok? Anyways,
Like,
that's the end,
play
guys.
Ewok Hunt and tell me they're not scary.
I want to thank Ryan, Nothing But Media, for calling in and being a part of this conversation. Calfor, our resident or our senior correspondent to the stars, for calling in as well. Thank you to Kenny Carrot for also calling in and providing their insights on Andor. I hope everyone enjoyed the series. Even though you may not agree with us, this is still our channel, and it is, in fact, the best of Star Wars, and Disney now has produced the best of Star Wars. And that's the bottom line, because Cone Stold said so.
Cone Stold?
It's a gag
Stone
from
Cold?
Santino Santino, one of the wrestlers from WWE, had a gag where he would mispronounce wrestlers' names. So when he's cutting a promo with them, like, he would say, because he was playing a super fobbish Italian, and like when he's speaking to John Cena, he's like, listen here, John Cena, and like he made John Cena crack up. So he's in the ring with Stone Cold. Stone Cold is kind of confronting him because he's been using his catchphrases. He's like, Stone Cold doesn't appreciate you stealing my catchphrases, and he's like, it doesn't matter what catchphrase I say, Cone Stalled. And then he almost made Stone Cold crack. But anyways, that's besides the point. That's going to lead to another rabbit hole. Thanks to the chat. Thanks to TikTok. 8168 likes. I'm wondering how many likes we have on this stream as well on the red play button side. Do we have a report from our senior correspondent to the thumbs?
11.
Choco?
I have it at 14.
Ooh.
It was
Ooh.
13 until I liked our stream just now.
If you're in
Oh,
the
it's
chat
19
right now.
if you refresh it.
Oh, 19. If you're in the chat right now, give us a like. And also, if you're here and lurking, we appreciate you. Subscribe for more content from us. We'll be around. We'll be dunking on the chuds, dunking on the carpet nuggets, and making sure that your passion and fandom of Star Wars stays normal. That's it. On to the next one.
For light and for life.
We are all rebels.
And may Krennic point on your head. I don't know.
Cape swoosh, we're out.